All right, welcome back to the IMNerd Podcast, guys. I'm your host, Freeway, and I'm here with my co-host, Kenny. And today we have a special guest with us, Marcus Hayden, a YCS champion, ARG champion, I believe, as well. He's topped a couple different things. He's one of the best players in the last 10 years, for sure. And one of my close friends, before he ever won anything or topped anything, I've known this kid for a long time. Before we get into that, though, I do want to give a quick shout out to our patrons over at Patreon. So we do have a Patreon where we have exclusive content episodes that only drop on that platform. You can't get them anywhere else, as well as video versions of the podcast. So if you're interested in that type of thing, you can check that out. Also, you can join the IMNerd Discord by subscribing to the lowest level of our Patreon for just $3. So that's another thing that's available. But check it out. See if you are interested in that type of thing. We have other perks too. I don't want to go over all of them, but I do want to at least give a shout out because I do that for every single person who decides to join our Patreon. So at the beginning, we have Connie, Austin, Leon, Quest, Garen, Hylian, TCG Automotive, Silver Chronic, Tyree Tinsley, Dimitri Barnes, Alexander Brissett, Vinny Casello, Dominique Roberts, Game Freak Yoshi, Alex Flamer, Gabe Marini, Henri Reynolds, CJ, WK-Dad1, Saul at Dabbers Gaming Cafe in Georgia, Dan Variable, Dennis Milburn, Joseph Marcello, Scott Page, Red Vines, and First to Home. Thank you guys so much. We really appreciate it. As I always say, it goes a long way. Without further ado, let's get into this Yu-Gi-Oh talk with Marcus Hayden. So, Marcus, how are you?
I'm doing great. It's been a great day. I called off work today because I had an interview, so feeling pretty good.
Oh, I love that. Wait, you called off work because you have an interview for another place?
Uh-huh.
Oh, I love
what you gotta do. That's
Listen,
what you gotta do.
I'm the master of that. I'll use some PTO or FTO, whatever you want to call it, to interview for a different company when I'm not satisfied.
Heck is FTO?
Right.
So my company actually has unlimited time off, and it's called FTO, which stands for flex time off instead of paid time off. We don't have a set number of days in my company because it's a tech company. So like, I guess just like Google and a lot of the other tech companies, they don't just say, oh, you have 3 weeks. You can just take off as much as you want. But the caveat to that is obviously they expect you to be an adult and to be reasonable and also to get your work done. So there are people who take off for 2 months in the summertime to go to like India or China to visit their family, and that's the only time they take off the entire year. There are people who take a week like every single month of the year for the most part. However you want to do it. But yeah, FTO, it's a blessing and a curse because sometimes it's awkward. Like you'll feel weird when you're overusing it, but then at the same time you'll see other people just wilding out. So it's like this guy took off so much, I'm taking off more because I feel like I'm not getting my fair share at that point.
I'm getting juiced.
Yes.
I'm getting juiced.
So some people don't use that really at all, which is crazy to me. But I do like the idea that, you know, we don't have a specific number of days and all that. You just take as much time as you need. You don't have to call it sick time. You don't have to call it paid time off. It's all just one bucket. Yeah, it's a very interesting concept.
This is so off topic, but I just wanted to ask real quick. Is there any buildup of sick? Like I know some jobs and careers, I should say, when the more sick days and sick time you don't take, by the time you retire, like you get all of that money.
So what happened in 2017 when my company decided to get rid of PTO, they paid everyone all of their sick days that had accumulated.
Okay.
They paid everyone all of their sick days and their PTO because at the time they were like a regular company and they were doing, you know, you get this many if you worked here for this many amount of years, you had this many weeks. So people who just had time that carried over, they paid them for those days. So they didn't just get G'd out of all of their time. They actually got a check for it, which is really nice. And and then they switched everybody over to this new thing where, you know, you just have unlimited technically it's really unlimited. So
that's so awesome. I'm so envious. As long as you're like responsible, that seems
like
way more ideal,
right? Like I know what I'm doing. Like I've been doing this for a while. I know my job is very cyclical because I'm an accountant, so it's really easy for me to know when I can take off. For example, like the first YCS back, the one that's in North Carolina, I think it is. I can't go to that because this is the busiest time of the year for me, March and April. So my company's being audited right now. And I am like swamped with work. I have so much to get done. And the end of March and the beginning of April is when it's at its worst.
The spring is always the busiest for accountants, right?
Yeah, because we also, so I'm not a tax accountant, but the tax accountants have it really bad, right? Because everyone's doing their taxes right now. So, and every business usually is filing tax. Like there's a lot going on with tax work. And that's even just filing extensions. You could end up filing thousands of extensions. When I was an intern back in like, I don't know, 2009 or something, I used to file extensions as an intern, and that shit, even doing 1,000 of those, is just a lot of work. So It's one of those things where this is a busy season for us.
Now my man Marcus, whenever he goes into a job interview, he's like, "Do you guys have FTO?"
I don't think many people have it. I am curious though, Marcus. What do you do, if you don't mind me asking?
Oh, so I'm actually about to switch into something completely different. I mean, so long as things go well. So
yeah,
let me backtrack a bit. So when COVID happened, I graduated May of 2020 from college. So a lot of jobs in my field, because I had a marketing major, a lot of them were on hiring freezes. I don't know if they're like less essential or what, but a lot of marketing places were on hiring freezes during that time. So I wanted to work and not sit around and do nothing. So and I moved out to Cincinnati to live with at the time my fiance, now my wife.
So that ended better. That ended better than I thought I was going to go. When you said at the time, my fiance, I was like, oh, shit. God damn it. Then it was my wife. I was like, all right, sweet. That ended better than I thought it was going to go.
And congratulations on that, too.
Thank you. Yeah, all happy endings here, man. I own a house and out here now, too, so I'm all happy. But
very nice.
For work, though, I started working in revenue cycle. And essentially what that is, they partner with hospitals to, from start to finish, when a patient comes in to when they leave, get the billing set up and then the billing paid. And so we really chase the insurance companies. But that's not something I'm like super passionate about or what I want to do for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
So now that things are a lot more opened up, now that I've got a lot of work experience under my belt, I'm kind of going out and chasing more so after my degree.
Yeah, nice. That's good. How old are you?
Just turned 24.
Okay, so you're still young enough where you can pivot into something else. It's good that you're aware that this is not what you want to do for the rest of your life, because trust me, like working a job that you just don't like or that you're not really passionate about, it's really hard and it does weigh on you year after year after year.
Have you been in that boat yourself before?
For sure. When I first started working, the company I worked for, I did not really like it the first 2 years, and then I got out. And then I worked another 6 years at another company, and I liked it at first, and then it started to slowly erode, and I just hated every direction it was going in. I started to notice there was no diversity in any of the top offices. Like all of the offices that had all the managers and stuff, they were all just old white men. And it just wasn't it. The company, tried to pretend like they were very progressive, but they were actually just not in any way. And then as soon as I got a new job, much closer to home, so my commute went from like an hour and a half to literally 15 minutes, which is insane. So much more time I got back. And now it's just, I work remotely. But when I got my job at my current company, I realized that there's just a lot better out there as far as not only pay, but the diversity aspect of it, and just like seeing people who look like you in the same field, and companies that have managers that are also not just white men. It's just, those things matter. And I'm glad that like I work for a company that, at the very least, like they actually do show that aspect. So
the bright side of Fraser's old job is that during the commute he got to read One Piece.
I did. I actually read all of One Piece back when I used to commute all the way out, an hour and a half to and back. I read One Piece on the train every single day until I caught up from start to finish. That's how I ended up starting it, and I am so happy I did that, because it's easily, to me, the best manga I've ever read. But
yeah, it's my favorite anime. Is the one got me into anime. So
damn,
yeah, let's go.
Favorite anime. But okay,
I'm only like 860 or 70 episodes in right now. I was actually watching it earlier today.
What arc?
So would it be spoilers if I kind of say?
We're going to be talking about One Piece a little bit right here. We're not, but Kenny and I are probably further than you, but we're not.
Spoiler alert for anybody, but yeah, around episode 800. But you're not going to spoil anything for me or for you.
Yeah. Right now, I forget his name, but he's fighting the dude on Big Mom's, like in the mirror world. He has like a 1 point. He has like the 1 point some odd million bounty.
Yep.
And Luffy's getting his ass beat right now.
Oh yeah, that guy's insane. It's her son, right?
I think it's her second or third son.
Yeah, Katakuri is ridiculous. That's one of the iconic fights in One Piece already. Like that's a classic.
Oh yeah, I can already tell.
Yeah, that guy has. What's cool about him is that he has a devil fruit very similar to Luffy's, and technically it's just straight up better, really. Like that, and that's kind of the point of that fight is you ran into your natural enemy. You ran into somebody who could do all of your techniques, which he shows him. He could do them better.
Right.
Because like Luffy only has 2 hands, but Katakuri's like, well, I can have 18 hands and still do a Gatling.
So, and he can separate it from his limbs and stuff too.
Yeah, he has a disc joint. If you play Smash, you know how broken it is to have a disc joint.
Oh, I love Smash. I'm a big Smash guy.
Oh, we have so much in common, Marcus. I have a question for you. So
Sure.
you won YCS Minneapolis in 2016, I believe, right?
Yeah, at the end of 2016. Yep.
Okay. Is that your first top?
Well, technically, it was my first YCS top.
Okay.
Yes.
So you've
but
topped like an ARG or something before that, I guess. Is that what you're getting
I
at?
I actually had a nationals top in 2015, but I was terrible back then. Like that
Yeah.
was one of the events where I didn't. Yeah, it was just a
He's
lucky
like, I got a
strand of
nationals
events.
top, but I was bad.
It was like sometimes you'll go through events where you're just insanely lucky, and like even when you win,
Yeah.
you do need that luck.
Yes.
But the event I won as I was playing, like I felt like I was also outplaying the opportunities that I had to.
Yeah.
That event I topped, and I thought I could go to Worlds because I lost in top 16 in 2015 to Matt Kalinda. I had also just played really bad throughout that event, like especially looking back at it and thinking about a lot of the things that I did. Even on like I even have a match on stream, and it's like, what was going through my mind when I did that? And I was just much younger and a lot less.
Yeah, you're a very young duelist. Like, granted, it's weird because you're 24 right now, but I knew you since before you were 18.
Oh yeah, since I was like 16. So it's funny because you're talking about how you guys would look up to pros and stuff, and your guys' experience. I think on the episode with Dale.
Yeah.
And as you're saying that, it's funny as I'm listening because you were that for me, but you actually were one of the few pros that I went up to and actually like reciprocated, talked to me, kind of
Yes.
continued to be friendly at further events. It's not like you just met me and forgot who I was. You would be like, "Oh, hey, Marcus."
Yeah.
And
Every event, I actually, well, it became a thing. Like, so when we first met, like you were really young, and I forget, I don't know if it was like Columbus or something. I don't know why Columbus seems like an event, but anyway, wherever we first met, after that, yeah, I started to like talk to you at every event, and then it got to a point where we literally would like meet up at every event, and I would meet up with all your friends, which is so cool because I think you have one of the best stories from my perspective because I knew your entire group before
Oh
any
yeah.
of you had won a YCS, and then all of you ended up winning a YCS.
Oh yeah, so it's kind of similar to your story too, right? With
Yeah.
like how you and your
McCabe,
friends were little
Silverman.
rivals, yeah,
Yes.
and no one was really successful, and then out of nowhere, it was like everyone was.
Yeah, and
That's
like
kind of
you literally like did the exact same thing. It's crazy.
right, and it was funny too because I was the first one in my group to really start it all, and it was kind of the same for you, right?
Yeah, well, no, Silverman started it in my group. Like, so Silverman in Philly,
Okay,
in my local, Silverman was the first person to like kick it off, and then I
okay,
came after him, and then I won, and then McCabe won an ARG like a couple years after that. But they had
Yeah.
both topped YCSs or Shonen Jump Championships, whatever they were at the time. They both of them topped before I ever did. But they also traveled when I did not travel. I never took a plane until that event that I won. I took a plane for the first time. So the event was not close by to Philadelphia, then I just didn't go to it.
yeah, I was kind of that way a lot when I was younger as well.
Yeah.
Something that I thought was funny about you saying Fraser, like, "Oh, hey, Marcus," is that not everybody would know this, but there's two Frasers. There's like Fraser, either A in a bad mood, like bad mood and good mood Fraser. Bad mood Fraser is like the most disrespectful person you'll ever see, but good mood Fraser is the most bubbly, like, "Oh, hey!" Like he's so fucking bubbly and shit.
Yeah,
But if he's in a serious or bad mood, it's like, don't even talk to him.
Yeah, just leave me the fuck alone.
I feel like he was really good about not being like bad mood Fraser. I can't really recall many times he was ever like that, to be honest.
In Yu-Gi-Oh events, he was usually bubbly.
Yeah, the thing is, so there are things that obviously can set me off. I mean, as there are probably with everyone, especially when I was young, and I talk about this a lot. Like I've had some very bad moments before where I kind of blew up on even some of my friends, and I've blown up. And this is all just from ego, right? Because and maybe you felt some of this, Marcus, but you're one of those people who's like very, I don't want to use the word perfect, but like you're very in control of like how you treat people and how you talk to people and your ego, I feel like, whereas I was not when I was younger. So when I was 20 years old and I won a YCS, like my ego was out of control. And with that comes a lot of toxic traits. And I own up to that. I take accountability for the way I used to be because I definitely could be condescending to people. But I think around the time when you met me, I was a fucking sweetheart. Like, if I met you like, I don't know, 2012 or something, and I just wasn't having a good day, and you talk, like, I would say hi and everything like that, but then it would be kind of very high and by, and I don't even want to entertain any conversation at all. But then I started to change that as I got older because I realized, I didn't
Was
want
that like
anybody
2015, 2016?
exactly. Like
Yeah.
I didn't want anybody to treat me like that. Also, I knew in 2015, 2016, I was slowly getting out the game. Like the event that you won, Marcus, I played a 51 card Metal Spectre deck that was like some homebrew I made, which is like Metal Foe and Magic Spectres combined. Guys, if you haven't seen it, it's a YouTube video where I top 16 the YCS in Minneapolis 2016 with that deck. I literally made that deck up. Shu Ping, I tested it with Shu Ping, even though obviously he didn't touch the deck. He said, I'm not going anywhere near that. You're out of your mind. You're not going to do well with that. You're crazy. And then I ended up topping, and I think he ended up dropping out. It was just like, I thought the deck had a good idea. Ties of the Brethren had just came out, I think. And that card was an auto win if you resolved it at any point. So,
Right.
But I don't know. I've always been like a person that tries to, you know better, you do better. So the Yu-Gi-Oh community has come a long way as far as toxic behavior and just being condescending and treating people a certain way because of your ego and because of how many tops you have and how many wins you have and all that stuff. Like I'm so over that. I've been over that for years now,
Right.
like more than half a decade. But I just, and those groups still exist out there who they're just those people who like the elitist, I guess you can call it, right? Like,
Yeah. I was about to say it kind of is festered because of those groups. Like, because I noticed it in myself a little bit when I used to be in some of those groups, where they kind of talk down on others and will talk up their group really well. So you start to believe in it yourself.
Yep.
But
it's easy to buy into it, and honestly, the bad part is it feels good because you're surrounded by people who are also successful,
right?
And it kind of proliferates because of that. You're surrounded by a group of people who, I've had some crazy hotel rooms with some. I remember in our hotel, you say there are 14 rings in this room right now. Like that is so many wins. And it'll be like literally like 6 people. It was like there are 14 rings. Like there are literally 14 wins in this room, which is fucking insane. But it's just like that. Once the conversation started, they go into those places where it's like, oh, these people are so bad and that stuff. It's just like, yeah, right. It's hard to not join in on that fun.
Yeah. I do feel like the community's moved away from that a lot more though in recent years.
Yeah, I think it's gotten a lot better. And a lot of it now is usually just, it becomes a meme immediately. Like if anyone tries to get too serious on Zodiac duels or something, like they just get memed to death.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So I do like that. Now the community just kind of takes it in stride. It doesn't it's really hard to piss off the community by being an asshole now. Like you kind of just get shunned, and that's what should happen, and be done with it.
Right.
I've known you for a very long time. So seeing you, Faizal Khan, Muhammad, his brother, all three
Dominic Couch.
Dominic Couch, like it's actually nuts to me how I knew all of you as children. And then all of you just somehow went. And then Faizal and his brother, didn't they fucking win back to back or something?
Oh yeah, and Faizal's in finals at those back-to-back events. He lost to his brother the first time in the finals, and the next event he won.
That's so fire.
So the brothers went back-to-back finals.
Well, he didn't play his brother again the second time, Faizal. But I want to say Imran still topped that second event in a row. They were just really, really good with the spiral deck too.
Yeah, that's just an insane story. Like that is, and Imran's so quiet. Like most people probably don't even know him because he's such a quiet champion. Like that guy won, and I don't know if I've ever seen Imran. Like I know he's still. I think I saw him top something kind of recently because I know I saw Faizal doing well somewhere, but I haven't been keeping up too much. But I was like, oh shit, Faizal still plays every once in a while. But it's
I almost did that Master Duel 3v3 with them, but Faizal backed out because he just felt like he wanted to practice more, and that's the type of guy he is. Though I kind of love it because he's my rival.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's so weird now that we're all grown up. So we used to like hate each other. Our story's a little different. Yeah, we used to not like each other, and we were rivals. But then like as time went on, it kind of I don't know if that's what pushed us, but it pushed us a lot, and we both got a lot better and got a lot closer over time.
So wait, why didn't you guys like each other?
I just thought he was like really condescending and mean to people and annoying, and
Faizal's hilarious. So I got along with him immediately because of what you're saying. Me and Faizal, because I'm mean. So me and Faizal, when I first met you and then you introduced me to him, and this is before he had topped anything. Like he was just completely like just Faizal Khan. You knew him, I knew him, and that was it. And I thought his sense of humor, he was so fucked up.
Oh yeah, he's so nice now though.
Yes, he's very like. Don't get me wrong. This is all in the past. This is behind us. But I remember when I first met him, I'd say very crass things, and I'd say very like rude things, and he would laugh and then say things back, and I love that. Like I anybody who can volley with me, you're my friend already. So, but yeah. So right. you guys pretty much didn't get on because you're a fucking sweetheart. I don't know how else to put it, but like you are. I can't get. It's hard to get you to say. I can't get you to say bad things about people unless they're truly despicable. You know what I mean?
You got me to get mad at you once, I think, ever, and it was in the online DC final table we were at.
Let's talk about that. So guys, if you guys don't know, during the pandemic, I play another card game called DC Deck Building. It's one of my favorite card games ever. It's not a trading card game; it's a deck building game. Have you ever played? What is it called? It's not Oblivion. What's that damn game called? That it's kind of derived from. It's another deck building game.
Ascension.
Yes, yeah, and I think Dominion too. But yeah, Ascension is derived from Ascension, so it's kind of like that. So if you ever played Ascension, which is like the biggest version of a deck building game, it's the first. That's right. What it's derived from. But it's DC, so it's Batman, The Flash, Superman, Wonder Woman, Martian Manhunter, all that stuff. And the game is amazing. And there's this Discord community that has its own rule set and its own cube, and they do tournaments and we play in it and everything like that. I am under a secret identity in that group because when I first decided to quit Yu-Gi-Oh! And I wanted to start in another card, like I guess community, I didn't want to be like known, and it was online anyway, so nobody would physically see me. So I didn't want to really be known. And so I made up a name and I was playing under that name. And one day, Marcus Hayden happened to be, because his name is just fucking Marcus Hayden on everything. So like I can just tell it's him, whereas he can't tell it's me except by voice. And we ended up playing each other in one of the rounds in this tournament, like in one of the top cut rounds, like in the finals or something. And
it was final table.
Yeah, final table. We're playing each other, and I'm being an asshole, but I'm doing it on purpose because he doesn't realize it's me, but I know it's him. And he messaged me. He's like, "Yo, are you playing in this tournament right now? Because I swear this guy sounds like you." And I'm like, "No, I'm actually out right now shopping. Wow, what's up?" And he's like, "Yo, I swear this guy sounds like you, but he's such an asshole." And so,
because I haven't seen you like that ever in my life, so I did not think it was you.
God,
so
this is amazing.
And mind you, I'm in voice chat texting, like I'm quietly texting, and I turn my mic on mute, so you can't even tell like I'm doing anything. And then I would unmute myself and then speak more trash to Marcus as we're playing the match, and he's getting pissed. Then he texts me back. He says, "Okay, there's no way this asshole is you. He is too much of a dickhead." And I was like, "Oh my god." Monty was talking about me the whole time. This was one of the best things ever.
Yeah, literally right after he came clean and was telling me how he was trolling me and stuff.
I was trolling him the hardest, and I've never seen you genuinely got mad too, and I've never seen you like that. But I get it because I was going above and beyond to be an asshole. Like
but looking back, it's hilarious, and it's funny.
Funniest stories.
Yeah, and it's funny though because you guys, when I started playing DC Online, your group wasn't playing yet.
Yes.
So like, I think the first 2 online events I played, I took second, where I got to make a change to the ban list, and then I won the next one.
Yep.
And then I was like top 3 on the leaderboard, and then I stopped playing, and I came back, and there's just a bunch of new people on the leaderboards, and I guess it's you in your guys' group.
Yeah. So I'm second, and Luke Feeney is first, and both of them are in my group. Like. Luke, OG, the guy who won over you, he's also in my group.
Okay.
So our group is actually Fiend, who's like the best player ever. Like he's not only really good at it, but he's also extremely lucky. And his luck is fucking terrifying. Luke is he's okay. So Luke, just to go over him real quick, how broken this kid is. He's topped Yu-Gi-Oh events. He got on the Magic the Gathering Pro Tour, and he is currently ranked as the #1 player in DC deck building. So like Luke, through 3 different card games, is just absurd. Like he's just one of those really good. He's really good at card games in general. He reminds me of Silverman, who's also good at multiple card games, and he just has that luck factor on top of it, where he puts himself in a position where he can get lucky, and then it happens. So he's just really good, and well deserved from him. But yeah, you stopped playing because they started making some changes that you probably didn't agree with, and we didn't either. But we had nothing else to do because it was the pandemic. I know we were probably like planning a wedding and shit at the time, so we were just like, yeah, because you and your girlfriend at the time, or I guess fiance at the time, you guys both played in the tournaments. I think she was like Lady Gara, and I was telling my group, I was like,
I like that name.
Yes, I was telling my group, I was like, yo, I know them. They're Yu-Gi-Oh players. He's a YCS champion. He's dangerous. Like, make sure. I was like, do not think that he doesn't know he knows what he's doing. Like he's very good at card games. And they were like, okay. And I was like, so if you sit at a table with him, you should like look to if you can cut his team or mess with his team in any kind of way or do anything to like put him at a disadvantage. You probably should do that because he's good. The same way you would do like when you sit down with me, you're gonna do the same thing. You're gonna be all eyes on me because you know I know what I'm doing, and I'm probably the best player at the table. So, but yeah, that was a funny time trolling you and then admitting it later on. I died because I've never seen you get so angry.
Well, I'm normally super good about not tilting, especially in card games, and like because I play a lot of card games as well and have seen a good chunk of success, but I like pride myself on not getting tilted, but I don't know what it was. I think like it started off, I accidentally drew another card and your cards are left to right. So I put it back on top and asked if I could just shuffle, and you were like, no, put your whole hand back. But I literally had 6 cards in deck, and one of the cards in my hand, like I needed. So I shuffle my hand back in, draw 5, and of course it's the only card left in my deck. And it just, I don't know why, but it made me so mad after that. And for the rest of the thing, I was just like, this is lost cause. 'Cause I was already in like second or third only at that point, and it only went downhill from there.
Yeah, I remember at the end of the game, you had like 7 or 6 VP. It was really bad. Like it was not close at all, but it was just that moment was so unnecessary. That's why I did that. Like that's why I was trolling because I was like, he's already out the game. Like he's not actually in this game. You got attacked by all the bosses and shit. Like everything that could go wrong went wrong already, and I was just like absolutely being an asshole. But because I knew you, it was so funny.
I had an 8-drop Parallax, the one that
you take it on return.
And draw extra cards. I had that on top of my deck, and we got hit with the villain that like destroys 2 off top of your deck, and I had a ton of defense. It was the only time I didn't have a defense, and then it got destroyed, and I was like, this is just the snowball effect that I could never stop.
So out of hand. Yeah, that is what happened too. Doomsday came out, and it was worst case scenario.
Yeah, so
that was absolutely ridiculous. That was funny though. But guys, check out DC Deck Building. It's actually a really fun card game. Me and Marcus used to both play it. I have since quit as well because now I play Edison Yugioh again. So I'm like playing Yu-Gi-Oh, but just not current Yu-Gi-Oh, and I don't have time for both. And also, as much as I love DC and the online community for it, I don't know, something about it just kind of wore thin with me. It got kind of boring. The format changes and the rule changes and stuff. It got stale, and I hate when card games get to that point. So we all just kind of bowed out at the same time. Like all of us just stopped waking up on Saturdays to play in the tournaments. Also, like the country started opening up a bit, so we started going outside more. And those tournaments take up your entire Saturday, which is a big problem for me. So I hated that you're not really playing for anything technically except bragging rights. And then you're playing from where I'm at on the East Coast in Philadelphia. We would play from, let's say 12 p.m. until 8:30 p.m. It's insane.
Right. That's your whole Saturday.
Yeah. So during the pandemic, it wasn't that big of a deal because I'm in the house all the time anyway. This Saturday is no different than any other day of the week, except that I'm not working really. So, but now like on Saturdays, I actually like to go somewhere and like go outside. So I just don't feel incentivized to do it anymore.
Yeah. And like you said, it's just bragging rights. I had one of those online tournaments where I was 5-0 and then they were going to cut to top cut and I dropped because me and Bella wanted to go get dinner or something.
Yeah. You're like, this is more important at this point. Like I don't care. About, like I can't win anything. You already won a tournament. You already qualified for the invitational. Like, yeah, I understand that. So let's backtrack a bit. How did you even get into Yu-Gi-Oh? Like how old were you when you got into Yu-Gi-Oh? Like, what was it, the anime? Was it something else? Like what happened?
Right. So if I start from the absolute beginning, I remember moving into a new house and my cousin and my older brother playing with the Yugi and Kaiba structure decks. Okay. And I had zero clue what was going on and no one followed the rules.
Of course. I love that. I love that none of us follow the rules.
Yeah, and even then I didn't really play. I was so young when Yu-Gi-Oh came out. I was born in 98, so you can only imagine how old I was.
Jesus.
Yeah, so but then maybe in like 2009, 2010, my older brother started to get back into it. So me and my longtime best friend John and a couple of my brothers and cousins all sort of started playing, still not really following exact rules. Like you need 2 tributes to summon like a level 8 or 7 or 8, right? Like we wouldn't do that. It was still just 1 is how we understood it.
Okay.
And I played a machine deck. I remember I thought that Tackle Footballer with 2200 defense as a level 4 monster was just so good. I don't know why, because I could stall until I saw like my good cards. So that was like, I guess, the inception of me learning the game, but I didn't really super get into it until I moved. So in middle school, I moved to Tennessee, and I'm not gonna lie, I just didn't really have many friends.
Yeah.
And I remember going to the mall one day and seeing these guys playing, and I was like, oh, I should bring my deck. I can kick these guys' butts. And
Yeah.
I got my ass whooped at locals over and over, and it just, I'm so competitive. It made me so mad. I started actually researching the game on YouTube, and like my machine deck slowly turned in like a gadget cyber dragon deck, and then at this point it's like the like mid to end 2012 or 2011. So
Plants.
so plants were big. But I had like this love for X Sabers for some reason, so that was the deck I built.
Broken.
Yeah, it was really solid during that time, and that's like when I won my first local and stuff. And that was just a taste. And then in 2012, I was like undoubtedly like the best player at my local. I know that doesn't mean much,
It
but
does.
to me,
It's a start. That's how it started
right,
with me.
right, and well, that's what made me want to go onto the regional scene, and that's how I got my first regional top was at a Charlotte regional in 2012, and I was playing Simon Heath's Chaos Agents at that point. And then I stopped playing from like 2012 till end of 2013, beginning of 2014, because I moved back to Illinois, so I had all my friends back. I was into sports, but I found out my close friend John had also gotten into the game somehow just by complete coincidence. So that's really got me back into the game. And then from 2014 onwards, I was in and out of the game, but more so in than ever out. 2014, actually, that's when I met you, was Nats 2014, because I came up to you about Memory of an Adversary because you were playing D Prison, and I was a nobody, so I didn't expect you to take my advice. And then I saw your deck profile and you actually played it, and I was like so proud of myself. I was like, I told them about that.
You were smart. You were always smart. I could tell. One thing I love that you said, there's a couple things I want to touch on in that story. So you said how you were very competitive and you hated losing. And that is the bug that gets us all. I think not only as men, but just as like competitive people, there's something about like, I'm not afraid to admit I am a bit of a sore loser. Like I don't like losing. I've gotten a lot better at it over, my older age, but I don't fucking like losing. I hate it. And like the idea of losing makes you try harder, right? Like you don't want to lose. You want to go to these events. You want to do well. You want to be undefeated if you can. Like, at the end of the day, like I don't want to lose to anyone. I don't even want to lose last round if I'm undefeated. Like I just want to win every round that I can. And I want to see every scenario. I don't want to misplay. And a lot of times I prefer if I lose, it's like, okay, I lost because I was unlucky and there's nothing I can do. But I do harp on my losses a lot more than anything that I've won. And that just made me into like a competitive monster. And that's when you start, after locals are over and everyone else is done playing Yu-Gi-Oh, me, McCabe, and Silverman would literally sit in the back for hours and just run simulations of games. And like, how good is this card? Well, let's put it in our opening hand every single game and let's see if it's good. And we just do that. Like, I'm going to have literally brain control in every opening hand. And then I'm just going to draw 5 other cards, or at the time, whatever it was.
Right.
But we do that type of thing and just create these scenarios and stuff and see like how good is this card in a situation and just figure out. It's like a lot of theory crafting, but also with real like dueling involved. Cause I think that there is a balance that you need to have in Yu-Gi-Oh where you can't just talk about it. You do have to do some execution. It's important to know how to do it when it actually comes down to it. A lot of people can just like commentate, and then when it's time to actually play, like their technical skill falls off. But I think I'm one of those people who my technical skill is really high. And I think you have that too. Like I can tell, like when you play, you're very focused. You move your hat back and everything. When you do, you get all into it. Now you Ash Ketchum it. Yeah, you definitely Ash Ketchum. And I think both of us transform when we play Yu-Gi-Oh. It's interesting. You're such a nice guy, like a polite person, just like a very like not serious person when I'm naturally talking to you and we're not playing Yu-Gi-Oh. But then when I watch you playing Yu-Gi-Oh, like if I walk past your table, if I'm done my round and I'm handing in my match slip, when I see you playing, the look on your face and like how serious you're paying attention to like your opponent and like your feel and everything, your hand is like when you get transformed into Yami. It's like this complete night and day of a person. And I think that's kind of what Kenny was describing in the beginning of the podcast with me too. Is like everyone knows, like I can be a very bubbly person, I can be a very friendly person, but then when I play Yu-Gi-Oh, if you see me at a tournament, I fucking go stone faced and like it looks like I'm angry. I look actually angry, like my opponent did something to me.
Right. No, I completely get it. It's like as you were describing it, it made me think of Netero from Hunter x Hunter. and like how he's always so like goofy and stuff, but
Yes.
then when he fights, it's just like complete serious face and
Yep.
like
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to turn up sometimes. So yeah, that's what did it for you. You said you got your first regional top. Was it with the fingernail deck? You said agents. You said Simon Lee agents.
I like how you call it the fingernail deck. Yeah, I play Chaos Agents, and going back to that format, because I play a lot of September 2012 with people in my area. That deck is not good. I don't know how that.
Trust me, I know.
ever did so well.
So let me insert this, and this has nothing to do with anything right now. This is a complete side note. We do have a Patreon exclusive episode about cheating on our podcast, and we talk about a lot of different cheating scenarios and things that have happened in the Yu-Gi-Oh's history. So guys, if you're interested in that, you can check that out on our Patreon at IMNerd Podcast. But yes, anyway, back to the relevancy of this topic. That deck was not good. Yeah, the agent deck, the Chaos Agent deck. And it's weird because he was able to go undefeated with that deck multiple times. Like he would go 11-0 multiple events. And I thought that was just interesting to say the least. Because the deck was just not good. And I think at the time, like full power windups was legal. Gear Gia was around. Like a lot of other, playable decks.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's definitely just not on that power level. Like I could imagine topping with it, but the success Simon saw with it was out of this world.
Yeah, it was unnatural to say the least. So, but yeah, you got your first top with that, and describe how that felt getting your first regional top, because I know what it felt like for me, and I'll go over mine after you go over yours.
Oh yeah, so the first regional top, I was just so ecstatic. I remember just thinking to myself like, it doesn't get better than this, and that surreal feeling. And I thought I would never feel it again. But honestly, every time I hit that new milestone, it felt like that. So
yes, my first ever time topping was with Troop Dupe. Like when Troop Dupe Scoop was up. This is way back 07. Troop Dupe Scoop, but it was a 7-round regional because they were much smaller back in 07. And I'll never forget. I was like 5-0, and then I finally lost to someone, and then I won out. I guess the next round or whatever. And it just felt so amazing to get that first feeling of success. Like I had already been doing well at locals or whatever. People kind of knew me from locals, like, okay, this kid's kind of good or whatever, but nothing special in the grand circuit of things. And then I got that regional top, and it's so weird how it happens. I got the first regional top, and then I started topping every regional I went to.
Yeah, same.
And then like I get my first YCS top, and then I start topping every YCS I go to. And it's just like, I always say it has to be partly mental in some way, like a mental block that you can't quite see, because at first you're going to these events and you're scrubbing out and you're like, what am I doing wrong? Like, am I choosing the wrong deck? Am I playing poorly? Like, what is happening to me? I hate blaming it on luck. So I always try to figure out like what factors are contributing to me scrubbing out. And for me, I realized a lot of times it's just I'm playing a bad deck. Like there have been, at a Shonen Jump Championship in 08, I played a like zombie deck that was like half Lightsworn, half zombie. I could have played full Lightsworn, which would have been better, or I could have played Teledat, which would have been the best deck. But I played some zombie brew with Lightsworn. And as you can see, 8 years later in 2016, I haven't fully given up on making these ridiculous decks that like, why are you play? Like you could play a real deck and you'll be fine, but you're playing this fucking homebrew. But I've gotten better as a player by 2016 to where I can top with something as ridiculous as Metal Foam Magispecters.
Also, you're probably better at homebrewing.
Yes, I am better at homebrewing now.
The creation, the Frankenstein deck that you make is going to be better than the Frankenstein deck you made when you were.
And Yugioh, information in Yu-Gi-Oh has grown so much since I call it like the Hoban era. Like the from 2013 after he won nationals, and every year after that, to where we went into this whole idea of combo decks where you just kind of go off turn one and don't let your opponent play. Because he pretty much started that era of Yu-Gi-Oh! And it hasn't changed since then. Like that has been Yu-Gi-Oh! since he started the whole thing. Like put out all your monsters turn one, set up an unbreakable board, and then make your opponent not be able to play the game. Like since that has started, it hasn't stopped. So with that hindsight bias and like not only like I applied it to Edison format too, is like try to be as unfair as possible. I'm not a genius or anything like that. Like everyone knows oppression is broken. Why did nobody play it in 2010? Like now, you play Edison format tournaments and you're going to get oppressioned. Like people realize these cards are extremely powerful. But yeah, like my skill level has gone up just because of the information though. It's more so just I know more. Like I just know how to make the game unfair. And I applied that also to DC deck building. And that's how some of the teams that like my group created, like this was a ridiculous Deadshot team. I don't know if you were around for it, but it was a 4-hero team and it played Starfire tier 1. She's like, if you control 4 different colors, you can destroy a card in your hand. and then it played another tier 1 like Jay Garrick, and then it would play Chameleon Boy and also Deadshot. And the team was just so OP, and it really didn't allow the other 3 players to even do it. Like, you really couldn't interact with it. You couldn't do anything. They could infinitely block forever because Deadshot's effect is just insane. You play on their turn and your turn. And that was me just taking Yu-Gi-Oh knowledge and applying it to something else. Like, I don't want to be interactive. I want to play the game by myself, essentially, in solitary you.
Yeah, that's what you guys were playing, I think, in that event that I played with you guys. And that was not a team that was on my radar. So
no, that team was ridiculous. And I made that team.
Yeah. Most of my success was when teamwork still existed.
Yes, Golden Glider, I heard that there was a game where you went turn 1 and you bought a 7-drop with Golden Glider.
Oh yeah, I had 5 power, and then you teamwork drew 6 power. Yep.
Yeah. 7-drop turn 1.
I steamrolled that game. I had like 30 some odd VP, and I think the next closest was like 11 or something.
Yeah, I heard it was not close at all.
Yeah.
So I was like, geez, Marcus is no joke. I said, see, I told y'all, be careful about that guy. I said, he's really good, and he could be lucky too.
I was surprised that format that people would ever play things that either weren't Golden Glider or weren't Darkside Deathstroke, because those were like the only 2 relevant teams in my opinion.
Same. And so we came into the community and they literally told us that Darkside Deathstroke was bad. Now we knew already because I used to host house games for DC at my house every Friday night before the pandemic. And we get like 6 people will come over my house every single Friday, and they'd stay until 4 a.m. Sometimes they spend a night. But we play DC and just like sometimes we drink and we watch and we listen to anime music, like just complete weeb out and have a great time literally playing DC hours. But we knew Darkside Deathstroke was pretty much the best team, if not Golden Glider. So we banned those from our queue because we were like, this is just unfair advantage. But we never forgot how to play. So when we came to the Discord and we saw that those teams were legal, I was like, well, this is just not fair. Like, we just pick this and because they thought it was bad, they wouldn't even pick it. Like, they just would not pick Darkside Deathstroke.
I know, it's crazy.
So we just played it every single round. And then they're like, oh, how come these people keep on winning and topping every single tournament? It's like, you guys are passing the best teams. Like, Golden Glider, yeah, it's only one hero, but she is by far the best hero in the game. Like, it's not even close.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, that was an interesting time. But, okay, so then that's your first regional top. And then you go on to eventually win a YCS. And I'm wondering what leads up to that moment, because you're playing Metal Foe, which was the best deck, if I'm not mistaken. Like, I know Blue Eyes was out, but I don't think Blue Eyes was nearly as good as Metal Foe.
Yeah, so I will preface this. If I went back to that format, I would probably also be playing a Metal Foe variant mixed with Magispectors like you had. I just don't have the deck building, because I pride myself on being a great technical player, and if I spend the time, I think I'm like top 5 NA, to be honest. But
yes, I feel the same way, Marcus.
Yeah, but when it comes to deck building, that's always been my shortcoming, and I've had to rely on teammates and stuff oftentimes to help me.
Same. Sean McCabe and even Silverman, they're better deck builders than me, so I let them do they'll come up with the skeleton, and then I'll tweak based on just like, this isn't correct for whatever reason, and I'm good at that part. I'm good at editing. Like, I can edit.
Same.
I can't start it. Yes, I can edit it, but I cannot start it. Even the Gravekeeper deck, like McCabe created the skeleton. Like, he created the initial deck, and then I was involved in just like editing it and making it like, okay, we don't need 3 Knuckle Valleys, like 2 is enough, stuff like that. Like,
right.
But yeah, I'm not the best at creating a deck from scratch, except when I make these crazy homebrews that somehow I'm able to still like top with or whatever. And yeah, like I made a Dragoonity deck in 2011. I topped with that, and that, like, Konami featured me and everything. It's one of my most embarrassing pictures on Google. It was like me holding up the Dragoonity structure deck, I think, because they wanted to use me for like product placement, I feel like. And it's such a bad picture. Like, my teeth were awful. I'm smiling like a child, but I'm actually probably like 21. And but I ended up topping with Dragoonity. And that was a deck that I just completely, like, granted, yes, it's structured decks, but then like you have to decide how you want to play it. And I feel like most people had it wrong. I think I was playing like 7 tools and a bandit in the main deck. And my build was just super ignorant. Like, it was just super ignorant. And most of my rounds, I just steamrolled my opponents. Level 8 synchro, level 8 synchro, level 8 synchro over and over again.
Oh yeah, I created your deck in person, actually. I built March 2011 format, and yeah, your Dragoonity list is one of the decks we have built.
Yeah, because if you play against Gravekeepers, it's a pretty easy matchup if you just can withhold playing your Dragon Ravine, right? Like, If you can play it over top of Necro Valley, that deck just starts to lose immediately. Like that deck is terrible without Necro Valley on the field. So once I realized that, I was like, oh, field spell decks are kind of nice. Like they just beat the Gravekeeper deck immediately.
Right, and Gravekeepers are what kind of made Sabers hard to play sometimes, even though it's still super relevant. But
yes, yeah, it did, because I did play X Sabers in top 4, played against Brandon Wigley in game 1. I think he got royal tributed for his whole hand, but then even the next game where I think he like tried to play somewhat between 3 Book of Moons, Solemn Warning, it's just impossible to resolve a high unlay.
Yeah,
like you just can't resolve her, and that's the way that deck used to win. It would be like trap stun you or 7 tools or whatever, and then like high unlay all your back row. And I knew that because McCabe, he played X Saber. He toughed a lot with that deck. He got a lot of prize cards with that deck. Like X Sabers was his shit, and I was always the plant guy. But Gravekeepers put both of those decks in the coffin. Like when we tested for Atlanta, we played against predominantly plants and X Sabers, and neither one of those decks could win like almost a game. Like it was almost impossible. And I was like, Jesus Christ, like why is this deck so good? Like why is Necro Valley such an insane card? I think even now, like Necro Valley would theoretically shut off most of the decks. Like it's just
there's a good period even now, and I mean not now, but maybe like a year ago, I think, where people were side decking it just because it had such meta relevance when you went first against a lot of decks.
It cuts off so much, and that card has been eroded like more times than any other card in Yu-Gi-Oh's history. Just ridiculous. But yeah, homebrewing, making decks, not my thing. But you said you're a tactician. You're more of the technical skill player, like top 5 NA, and I agree. I've seen you play. You're very, very good at actually dueling and everything. So this is before you won, and I guess you were playtesting with your group like Faizal and stuff, I assume?
Yep, Faizal, Imran. It was called Ice Cream Chat at first. And it was Faizal, Imran, our buddy Alex, and a few others were in our test group, and we were all on the Metafo deck. And like 2 weeks prior, we played at an indie regional, and my only loss was to Jeff, and he was playing Blue Eyes. And I remember I made this play where I had to preemptively twin, and I asked him, do you think like I should have played it differently? He's like, no, like just because you got punished by the play you made doesn't mean it was incorrect. I think the play you made was correct. And that was like one of the first times I also realized, just because I lost doesn't mean I did something wrong, or just because of a decision I made, that it's all calculated risk. And honestly, that's what Yu-Gi-Oh in a nutshell is. And when it comes to the technical play, is your ability to calculate risk. Obviously, there's other factors like being able to read people and whatnot.
Yeah, the human element of it, right?
Yeah, but you kind of have to, just like poker, you put them on a range of hands and a range of cards that could, worst case scenario versus best case scenario, and then you have to do the math on like what is the likelihood they have said cards based on how they've played it, because you have them in said range, and that's really how you can calculate risk in Yu-Gi-Oh. And I think once you master that, that's what gets a lot of people to the next level, because around that time's where I really started to comprehend that more so than just playing my deck to the best of its ability or whatever that means.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. Calculated risk. And I guess that makes sense for me, because that's kind of like my whole life is mathematical in a way. Like everything I'm literally an accountant, and I think a lot of what I do is just always thinking of what are the odds? What are the odds? I'm always asking myself that question as I'm dueling too. And even before I realized this about myself, I would always be wondering, what are the odds he has the 1 torrential? Like, what's the odds he has the 1 mirror force? It's only 1. And if he doesn't have it, I win the game. And is that worth risking? What happens if he does have it? How bad of a position am I in if he does have it? Do I just outright lose if he has it? Can I put anything in defense mode? Can I not summon and just poke? Will it put him within lethal next turn? Like, these are all the questions I rapidly ask myself as I'm playing. And it's important that everyone does that, like you said, calculated risk. To become a better player, you do need to do that. You shouldn't just be throwing your shit out there willy-nilly without thinking about, what could go wrong and what can go right, and is the risk reward worth it? Because sometimes you are going to get bad beat, and you might have made the right play, and they will have had, the worst case scenario. They had the torrential when they needed it right there. They had the mirror force when they needed it. These are really basic examples. I know these cards aren't played anymore, but I think everyone listening to this podcast can probably understand mirror force and torrential are probably 2 of the easiest cards to teach you how to be risk aversive and not to get blown out. I mean, they were like the training wheels, and now Yu-Gi-Oh is like in a completely different state where you have to play around hand traps. But
and the people who are more aggressive with the calculated risk, like if I am in complete control of the game, right? And if the game goes on, I can put myself between a range like 65, 80% chance I could win.
Mhm.
However, there's a play I can make, an aggressive play, that I can, 70% of the time I'm going to win. I think sometimes that's also what separates people who win events and don't win events, because oftentimes the person who's always going to take the longer, safer route will top a lot of events. But because you have to make that call so many times in a top cut of an event, they don't know when to pull the trigger, and they'll always go that long route. And sometimes the odds slowly shift the other way because of it.
And we talked about that too in the Dale Bolito episode part 2. We brought up what the players like, and this is not to down like Joji Orlando or Alistair Albans or Matt Peddle, all of these people who have a lot of tops but they haven't won. It's not necessarily that they're bad players or anything like that. Like, clearly they're good. They can get to the mountaintop. They just can't get to the peak. Like, they can't get to the actual peak of it. And what is it that's separating them? And a lot of times, and I can't speak for everyone, but a lot of times it's because they just play so risk off. Like, they don't want to risk anything. They're not willing to give anything up in any scenario. And that can get you far, because the average Yu-Gi-Oh player just throws their cards on the table a lot of the time, especially back then. The players have gotten a lot better over time. So the player base now is probably a lot better than it was back then. And I believe that for every period. Like, now is always going to be the best average player. Like, 2022 average player is better than 2021's average player. Anyway, but they play very conservative and very just like, I don't want to give up anything. When if you just give a little, or sometimes if you give a lot but just go for it, like, that's what's necessary in that scenario. Like, you had to go for it. You had to have the balls to be like, you know what? That could be Mirror Force and it will be game and I'm out the tournament. But if it's not, I actually win the game outright. And I don't want to give him an opportunity to draw his one out or his 2 outs. Like, I don't even want the game to go long enough for him to have a chance to draw Brain Control or a chance to draw Heavy Storm or whatever it is.
Right. And a lot of times those scenarios come up where, like, your opponent may have a strong lead of, like, they'll have like 6 cards to my 4 cards in older Yu-Gi-Oh! And that's like a huge lead, right?
Yeah, it is.
But so being able to be like, all right, there's the chance based on how they've been playing and they just set a card, that can be Mirror Force, but this is my opportunity to just steal the game right now rather than wait and allow him to continue netting advantage on me over time.
Yeah, because they'll
just
poke at you
like
from a higher position. I noticed. Like, that's the thing that you kind of pick up on. When someone's in the driver's seat, they have that 6-4. They can be so conservative with their cards because they can afford to just trade you 1 for 1 now, because they'll just end up with 2 cards and you'll have nothing.
Right, exactly.
So, and they will like, if the game goes that way, they're fine with that. Like, a lot of times they're like, I'm good with the game going 1 for 1 if I'm up 2 on you. But yeah, evaluating those type of risks and knowing when to just, say, fuck it, I have to go for it here is important. And sometimes you get there, sometimes you don't. There's been many times when I've maxi challenged and I won. And I literally would not have topped the event if it wasn't for me just saying, I have to kill you this turn and I can't worry about how many cards you drew. And there's been times when I stopped and it was correct to stop, because I only gave you 1 draw, or I gave you an extra draw, but I made a Logia or a Dalka. And it's like, that 1 extra draw you got is not going to be enough to out this Dalka in defense mode.
Yeah, you got to know when to go for the kill. Like, I also think you have to change the way you play sometimes depending on which game it is. Like, if you won game 1 and it's game 2, you have the room. Like, if you can go for a game, you kind of have the room to, like, if you could kill them, all right, cool, I don't have to look at game 3. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, you can be a little more aggressive if you're up a game for sure.
You can stop things from happening, and that's true for like fighting games and like melee. Like, if you're up 2 stocks, like, I can just go for a really risky play and kill you because it's like I'm ending the game.
Yeah, no, I think that we just saw that too in one of the Smash tournaments. It was, I don't think it was Summit. It was probably after Summit. No, I think it was Summit. MK Leo played against Proto Baham, who's from Japan, and Proto Baham started off going what's the Min, and he won game 1 against MK Leo. And he switches to Lucina after he won, which is like kind of unheard of in Smash Ultimate. Like, people typically win and just stay the character they won with.
Yeah, I know.
But he switched to a different character who's really, Lucina's his main. Like, everyone knows this guy is the best Lucina in the world. He's by far the best Lucina in the world. So he switches to his main after he already won a game, kind of commandingly too, over the best player in the world. And everyone's like, what the fuck is he doing? But he was throwing him off, but 2, he was also, I'm up a game. So if we go back and forth, I win. Like, I'll be the first to 3 because I'm already up a game. I can afford to take the risk to try out Lucina and see what happens. Like, see where Lucina gets me. Maybe Lucina might be a bigger blowout. And if she loses, okay, all right, we're tied at worst. But now I'm still in the advantage state because I get to pick the stage. You know how it goes. Like,
right.
I'm the first to win, and if we keep going back and forth, I'll just be the first to 3.
Right, and MKLeo is insane at picking up on tendencies.
Yes.
So by doing that, also, if he started to get the feel for Min Min at the end of that first game, he might have thought it would be a way to, like you said, kind of throw him off.
Yeah, because they asked his translator, why did he switch after winning? And that's what the translator, he said, I just like to, when a player is really good, I think it messes with them when I switch characters like that. Like I go back and forth, and he's good with both of them, and they're so different. The way you fight against Lucina and the way you fight against Min Min are completely different strategies. You have to completely
Lucina,
go ahead.
Specifically, his Lucina, he's the only Lucina player I like watching.
Same.
Most Lucina players are so lame, but he plays Lucina like she's fucking Roy. Like he is in.
His Lucina never stops swinging. It's scary.
He doesn't spam just spacing the whole time like most Lucinas.
No, he goes the fuck in.
He swings that sword a lot. He swings that sword so much that a lot of times I start to question her frame data, because it's not like Lucina has bad frame data per se, but I just don't expect her to be as fast as he makes her. And I'm like, God damn, if you cancel her aerials, they look so much like she looks way faster when you just cancel all her aerials. Like you just keep landing with them and just canceling into an up tilt. Like he will do a fair and then fast fall at land and then do up tilt, and it comes out so fast the person will like let their shield go, and then they'll just get smacked or they'll jump and get up tilted. Her up tilt is like such a big swinging move. Like she swings her whole damn arm and the sword goes above her and behind her. So if you jump in any aggressive way, you get caught by it. But it's just very interesting to watch the top level of any game, I think.
And then Min Min is just not even remotely similar.
Yeah, Min Min is trying to literally keep you out. Lucina wants to be close to you, but like keep that really small space where the sword just disjoints you the whole game. And Min Min is like, I don't want to interact with you, actually. Min Min prefers to just zero interaction. I want to be lame. Like, I want to play keep away.
Yeah, I like the characters that can do both. I think that's why like Smash 4 Diddy was so insane, is he could play like he could play like the far distance game where he like pokes and just uses forward air and banana all game, and then he also has the ridiculous combo strands he could do and get in your face. So.
And the grab, hoo-ha, that fucking down to up air, that shit was so cracked. Oh my god, that character was ridiculous.
And he was so hard to juggle because he could just wave bounce all over the place.
He looked glitchy as hell.
Yeah.
In a game with almost no glitches, he looked pretty glitchy. Like you see him do the pop gun cancel and he like wiggle in the air. He do the flip kick and then he wiggle.
Yeah, and then he pop gun again. And then he could wiggle again by switching with banana the same way, opposite direction. Yeah.
He still can do all of that stuff too. Like he can still do a lot of the like Tweak plays him now as his main. And Tweak is one of my favorite.
Cool.
Tweak is one of my favorite players now because he plays Diddy and because I just grown to like him over time because he's kind of the underdog in the story. It's weird.
Yeah.
Like he's the second best player in the world theoretically, and because he's the second best, like I really have a soft spot for him because he's just like he's fighting to be number one, and Leo is just this obstacle that's so hard to overcome.
He's so good, man.
He's so there's no one in Yu-Gi-Oh quite like the top of Smash. Like when they have a best player, it's so solidified that it's.
It really is for every Smash game too. Like when somebody goes, I'm the best, it's like, fuck. And he stays the undisputed best for at least a year.
We've only had that
many times more.
With Patrick, I feel like. Like, Patrick Hoban is the only guy that has been, like, Yu-Gi-Oh's in a chokehold under his grasp, right? Like, he lasted for years as undisputed the best player in the game. No question. Topping everything, making every meta deck, like, writing a fucking book, just doing everything, right? And then, eventually everyone's reign has to come to an end.
Yeah, I feel like part of the issue with Yu-Gi-Oh, where like talent and deck building can't get you as far as it used to, is because of the accessibility to omni negates that exist now. Like, and I also think maybe obviously the average player is better just because of the amount of technology out there, but you can lose to way worse players than yourself.
Yes, you can.
If they go first and like set up 4 negates, like, whereas even 5 years ago, or not 5 years ago, I guess Pepe could kind of do that, but like 6-7 years ago that wasn't possible. 2014 2013, like they could set up big boards, but you still had the opportunity to play.
Yeah, you still got turns back then. You always got turns. I don't care if you played Sylvans. I know back then like Hoban and his group was on that they were playing like a Sylvan deck that was heavy combo, like turn 1 set up a Hermitry and all that stuff, but you still got to play. Like if I played Hat against that deck, I could just literally set Firehand, and I'm going to live more than one.
Yeah, right. Typically,
It is fucked up. Like, even with the fact that you draw one less card, like, I'm not great at Yu-Gi-Oh! I don't have any YCS wins or even YCS tops. But, like, if I mess around on Master Duel, which I've been doing, if I go first and set a board up, I just win.
Yeah.
Like,
you play
I
Dragon.
didn't do anything. Yeah, I just set a board up and win. And, like, that, like, they don't do anything. And you draw one less card. It's interesting because right now in Yu-Gi-Oh!, like in current Yu-Gi-Oh!, I feel like you just have to want to go first, period. Whereas I think in older formats, obviously you always wanted to go first, but going second didn't mean you lost the game.
And there were formats where going second was better.
Yeah. Whereas now, even with drawing one less card, you still just want to go first because you want to put 3 or 4 negates on the board.
Yeah.
And then tell them to hold that.
Yeah, there were formats when they got rid of the draw 6 turn 1. That made going second actually incentivized, which is one of the only problems with the Edison format, I feel like, because going first in Edison format is crack. It's just insane. There's no reason to ever go second. Like I tried to, I didn't think long about it, but I did try to think if there was any reason to go second in Edison format, and there just isn't. Like even if you're playing a deck that OTKs, you might as well just take the 7th card.
Right.
Like even if you go first and pass, even if that's your turn, because no one is killing you. You can't die turn 1 in Edison format. So like realistically. So because of that, you can literally go, all right, well, I'll just go first pass and then I'll just draw a 7th card and kill you like with more resources.
Also in Edison, go first pass is a good play because you might have Gores in your hand.
And Gores is actually good in that format. So it's like, yeah, there's reasons why going second is just atrociously bad in that format, and there's no incentive to go second. Whereas when Konami did the master rule that got rid of drawing 6, there was a Necros format where we wanted to go second. Ryan Levine won a YCS because he's playing Go Second Spiral, I believe, where he just played like 15.
They made that evenly and stuff. Yeah.
Yep. He just played a complete, like, I want you to try to combo off, and I'm going to just go after you and gamma you and ash you and all of that stuff.
Right.
And that has won tournaments. That has been a winning strategy to play Go Second this deck. And
right.
Yu-Gi-Oh! Just
I was just gonna say Spiral had some pretty important choke points too, so that's why that strategy was really successful at that time.
Yeah, and Necros is the most powerful card. Trishula didn't do anything on turn 1.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
So it has to make sense still. Like it's not free. Like it has to always make sense. But when it does line up perfectly, it's really nice. Like going second is good, and everyone wants to go first. Usually, the cool thing is the first person to realize that going second is correct can like either do really well at a tournament or just outright win a tournament, because everyone else still thinks that going first is correct.
Yeah.
Right.
And they don't realize that actually, if you just let your opponent set up a board, you just play a bunch of lightning storms, evenly matched, forbidden droplets, all these go second cards, you'll probably just beat them. And I actually saw some of that in 2021 when my friend was playing a Drytron deck that was like go second Drytron. Normally the deck, it goes first and it just combos off, and the combo is so outrageous. It only takes 2 cards to do the full combo.
Mm-hmm.
And the board it sets up is just unreal. So the scary thing about it was when your opponents will like let you go first, let's say that they were on to like, oh, your deck is built to go second, you could still just win the game going first because your deck is still ridiculous going first. It's not like it lost its power.
Yeah.
Right.
Like if it opens Alpha Zeta, it still does full combo, Beatrice, Ava, a bunch of negates. Like Herald is out there, so he's an infinite number of negates. Herald of Orange Light in hand, multiple copies. Like you still lose.
Right. No, for sure. That's what I play on Master Duel is Tritron.
I heard it's the best. But yeah, Kenny, what were you gonna say?
I was going to say the dinosaur deck's kind of like that too. If it goes second, it OTKs you. If it goes first, it just makes like Dolka, Lagia, Appaloosa, and fucking Savage Barrel Load. And you're like, all right, well.
That board is crazy, you just said, by the way.
Yeah. I just think what really ruined the current game for me, and it's funny because I'm starting to play again also just recently.
Everyone is, I see.
Yeah. But what ruined it for me for a while was and even still, I guess, is just the accessibility to Omni Negates. I just think hard negates aren't healthy, and if they do exist, they shouldn't destroy. Like they should just negate, and your card's still on the field.
Yeah, like Light Darkness Dragon, Appaloosa.
Right. Yes. Exactly.
Yeah, a lot of the cards say negate and destroy or negate and banish it. It's like, god damn.
Negate and banish, wild.
Negate and banish is wild.
Right. Because
crazy.
Yeah, you're not only losing the effect, but you're also just losing the net card advantage. Like you can't climb into anything.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. And the game is, the sad thing is, every good player knows the game is fixable.
Oh yeah, for sure.
They're just not incentivized to do so. So I have a question for you though. Here's a random. Oh, go ahead, Kenny. It sounds like you have something to say.
I was going to say, talking about current Yu-Gi-Oh, you said you were getting in the Master Duel, and you also said you have a bunch of decks made from the 2011 or 2012 format. Have you been, everybody's been talking about Edison a lot. Have you been playing Edison?
Oh yeah, so for a while I was trying to make X-Sabers work because, like I said, I just have a fascination for that deck, and I think it's a competitive deck, but in no way is it like a top 3 or even top 5 deck, to be honest.
I agree with you on that. I think it is competitive because Rescue Cat is just actually so broken.
Yeah, and you have like Giant Rat that floats into Emmer's Blade, and Emmer's Blade tutors the rest of the deck, so you have a lot more access to your deck. It's just you don't have enough power to like do a whole lot with it a lot of times. And the way the format is, like, the deck struggles to beat like Raikou, it struggles to beat Spy, and those are like really prominent cards too.
Yeah, if those cards cause your deck problems, then it's probably
So I play Neuralis.
Oh well, I think that's top 3 decks in the format, no question. It's not even trying to play real Yu-Gi-Oh. It's trying to play current Yu-Gi-Oh, if anything.
Yeah, well, so it doesn't set up negates, but the way it just clears the board and like goes through the deck so fast.
It's kind of the same thing though, because your opponent doesn't have any cards. It's like you basically negated all of their cards.
So what I did with Edison is I took all the power cards that I wanted in my deck. So like Red and D, I took Rekindling, everything that's just insane in Edison.
Yeah.
I made a list and I was like, all right, Future Fusion, Diva, all that stuff. I was like, so what decks play the most of these cards?
Yes.
Like, where can I maximize on these?
Yes.
And it was one of the 3 decks that I ended up considering, and that's the one I've been testing the most right now.
Testing Neuralis is so weird though.
Oh yeah, most of the time if I start playing it, people just quit on DB, to be honest.
It's because I've been playing it a lot too. And it's one of the decks that I started the whole format with. Like when I first got back into it, I played Diva Hero because I was forced to.
Yeah.
Because McCabe just gave me the deck at locals on my first week. And then after that, I immediately was like, okay, what's actually good though? And Neuralis, as soon as I played that deck, I was like, oh, this is not okay. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, and there's a few things I think you can do to make it better too. Like I noticed the build online wasn't playing like Dark World Dealings. That's another card I'd play in there.
Yeah, it doesn't play Summoner Monk, and I saw a build that plays that.
Yep. There's just a couple of cute things that I think can still be fixed for the deck. And I did notice I got Shadow Imprisoning mirrored the other day playing that deck. I didn't even know that was out, and then I figured out it was, and I was like, oh man, if this deck got popular and people started citing that would be a big problem.
Yeah, there's a couple things like that. So Consecrated Light, which I completely forgot about, that card's also super ignorant. You do have an out because Red Eyes Wyvern is just straight up wind, but you have to draw it, and technically you don't want to draw that card anyway. But that card's scary. Like you said, Shadow Imprisoning Mirror is scary because it requires specific back row destruction to get rid of it. And right now, I don't think many people are citing Shadow Imprisoning Mirror, but we'll see how this tournament this weekend goes because, the meta is going to constantly shift. Whenever you have a meta with 15 decks in it, and I know Vayu Turbo won the last tournament, but then people might see that and be like, oh, dark decks are winning because the top 3 decks, Diva Hero, the Neuralis deck, and the Vayu Turbo deck, they're all dark decks technically.
Yep.
So there could be an influx of Shadow Mirrors this tournament, and that is problematic. That card does put those decks in a coffin. Like, it makes them so bad.
Oh, for sure. No, I agree completely. I might not even be playing in the online event actually because there's a big goat tournament out here in Ohio, and like people are literally coming from all over, like Texas. I know Carl Waite from New York's coming.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be a really big goat event, and the prize is just insane. So I really want to play in the Edison tournament though, so I'm not 100%.
Edison tournament has a crazy prize too. I think they said there's an $1,000 pop bonus, which is fucking nuts.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was trying to figure out exactly the prize, but I guess the rest of it's based on Keegan's Patreon, I think. So I don't know yet. I also think it would be cool, like if I played online, I can just like hop in a Discord with you guys, in between rounds and stuff and talk about it. And I guess
playing it. For sure. It's interesting though, because there's the regional close to Philly. It's not in Philly, it's in like Oaks, PA, but that's like an hour away from my house.
Right.
But there's a regional in Philly on Saturday, and I really want to go to that because I haven't
also
seen
the PM Summit's this weekend.
Oh my god.
That's Stango's, and I'm pretty sure the PM Summit is this weekend too.
This weekend is insane for gaming. You have a GOAT tournament, there's an Edison tournament, there's a Philly regional, and there's the PM for Smash. A summit for that as well, which our friend and his cousin, Kenny's cousin, is actually, he qualified for the summit. which is insane.
Oh, that is cool.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is sick. I wish I were. So there was a brief period of like 6 months during Smash 4 where I wanted to like take it seriously and like start going to tournaments. And
Yeah, me too.
I would like practice like 8-9 hours a day. And mind you, I'm still in college and stuff, so I'll stay up to like 3 a.m. playing with my friends and whatnot. Though. Yeah, and I played Diddy, and I remember at that point in time, I was like so much better than all my friends. And Chicagoland has a local that like consistently gets like 120 people.
Damn.
Yeah, and I remember I went there, and it was like a big reality check because I went. It's double elimination. I went 2-2, and I was like, "Holy crap, these guys are so good."
We're talking about Smash.
Yeah, I'm like, I am so far behind, even with all the training that I did.
Yeah,
and
the Smash tournaments are fucked up, man. I played Melee competitively for a while. Like I went to tournaments every weekend, and Smash 4 for a little while too when Smash 4 came out. I remember, funny thing about Tweak, before he was Tweak, there was a tournament in Philly that Tweak went to, and he played Bowser Jr. at the time. And this was like one of his first tournaments he did really, really good at. And there was like, I think 100 or so people at this tournament. It was run by one of our friends. And Tweak ended up winning that tournament with Bowser Jr. I remember that there was like everybody standing in the crowd watching it on like this big ass like projector screen, and just like yelling, like people were popping the fuck off. Because Bowser Jr., now everybody looks at the character as just being lame. He's like a corny character, but nobody used him early Smash 4 because, I mean, he sucks. But Tweak was using Bowser Jr. and was like popping off with him and won with him. And I don't know, it was crazy. People were going nuts.
That is hype, though. Just when people do well with bad characters.
I love it. I love whenever somebody shits on the character and then that character does well. I have a soft spot in my heart for the underdog. Like I said, I root for Tweak because even though he's the second in the entire world, I know what it's like to be in the shadow of someone else and to like want to be the best, and you're so close, but there's this obstacle. Like I know that feeling. So yeah, I empathize with that. And I tried to play Smash competitively. I think probably the most I've ever tried might have been Smash 4, like Kenny said. Like trying to play in a couple tournaments and stuff like that, and then quickly realizing like, holy shit, this is going to require a lot more effort.
Yeah, like I thought I didn't have time to play Yu-Gi-Oh, but you would have to know life worse than that to be really competitive in Smash.
During RAR back air, like just doing back airs for me is difficult. Like that is not easy to me to like. So when I watch the people, like the top players in the world play, they make it look so easy. It's almost like their character is just turned around immediately and they just back air people. And I'm like, how the fuck are your fingers doing that so
just repetition.
Quick?
Right. It's funny because
so
like
quick.
Yeah, it's just repetition because I'm like all of that like basic tactical stuff like I can, do without even thinking. The other thing that's weird is that Melee and every other Smash game, even PM, which is like built to be similar to Melee, are so different mechanically in some ways. Like Melee doesn't have RAR. Like you can't run forward and then jump in the air and be turned around. Like you can't do that in Melee. You have to do like other specific actions to get your character to turn around. And it's something that I would think if I were to just talk about it, I would mess up switching between Melee and Smash 4 and Ultimate. But I actually don't. Like my brain just kind of knows like if I'm playing Smash 4 or PM, I do it this way. But if I'm playing Melee, like I just do it the other way.
Yeah.
The other thing is like tap jump. On every Smash game, I turn off tap jump. And Melee, you can't turn off tap jump. But when I play Melee, tap jump being on never messes me up.
I know.
Just because like my brain, I don't know why.
It's so weird to me because I hate tap jump. But when I play Melee, like I know how to do all the advanced techniques of Melee too. I can wave dash, L cancel, short hop, double laser, all that stuff, right? I can do everything that anyone else can do. I can drill shine, but I can't do it as well as consistently. But I can't. Like my fingers can do it. They're capable of doing it. But it's weird to me that tap jump, I turn it off in every game, like you said, where you can turn it off. And in Melee, I never jump by accident because of tap. Like I never accidentally jump. Like that never has happened ever. Like never in my life can I say, oh fuck, I jumped.
Yeah, I can't fathom Melee players, man. I try to play it, and like it's weird to me that you have to abuse things that the creators of the game, like when they create it, they did not design it for the game to do a lot of these things, right? Like today, a lot of the stuff they do is like anticipated, right? But I can't imagine, because when I play the game Melee, it feels so slow and so choppy, and it makes me so mad. But when I watch people play it, they move like more seamlessly than even like the newer games. It's crazy like how they glide around everywhere. And Oh, I could never.
It's like
So
micro spacing too.
The movement is so clean. It's interesting because if you don't know how to play Melee sometimes, like, the movement can feel weird, right? But once you know how to play and you can take advantage of all that the buttery shit you can do, it feels so good and it looks so good too. It's funny talking about like people getting in the like I've played Melee like my whole like since 2001. It's my favorite Smash game. I love it. And my cousin Stango, like I taught him how to play, and then he, as years went on, became way better than me. Like he became ranked in the world. I think his highest ranking was rank 32, like in the world. And so I'm not even close to him in skill, but I'm still like really good for like an average player. And I remember one of my friends, he watched Evo, and he got super into Melee. He was super excited. He was like, "No, I'm gonna start playing Melee." Blah blah blah. And I was like, "All right." And he was practicing for like a week, and he was like, "Yo, do you want to come over and play Melee?" I was like, Sure." And I come over, and then at first I picked like Link or whatever. He's like, No, pick your main. I was like, "Dude, you just picked it up. Like, just like give your." He was like, No, pick your main. Like I've been practicing all week.
Oh god.
I was like, "All right." The end of the story is I never played Melee with him again. We never played again. That was it. He realized like, and I'm not even good, but he realized the difference between me and him was so large. Like,
yeah, it would take a while before he's able to beat you.
Yeah, and I'm not power ranked, and that's like how big the difference is between us. So
right,
yeah, it puts it in perspective. Those games are great. I love the mindset you need for fighting games, and then for card games. Where fighting games, there's very little variance. You're not fighting against variance per se.
Right.
You're more so fighting like your technical skill matters way more in those things than it does in like Yu-Gi-Oh, right? Like now deck building in Yu-Gi-Oh can win you the event. The whole event, you can actually misplay, but if your deck is way more powerful than everyone else's, like it could just win you the entire tournament.
Yep.
Misplays and all. There were games where for example, the YCS I won, the guy who went 10-0, Ronald Mack, he's one of our friends from Alternate Universes, the Philly local. There's feature matches, I'm pretty sure, because he was the most featured player that weekend, if I'm not mistaken, as far as like out of our group. He's playing a Gravekeeper deck too, and he's playing it's not card. Me and McKay play card for card the same deck. All of the cards are exactly the same. Ronald, because he wasn't explicitly given a deck list, he made like his own version, which is still pretty close to the final version anyway. I think he played like Dark Brob and Divine Wrath or something like that. Some stuff like that. But anyway, the point is, he ended up going 10-0. And me and McCabe, I think we both got into X2. So the two people who like started with the deck and took it from inception, did all the testing, everything like that. Like we're X2 fighting for our fucking lives. This guy goes 10-0, right? But when we read some of his feature matches, he would do stuff like set a monster, set 2 back row, and then Royal Tribute, and he would have like Gravekeepers Commandant in his hand.
Oh man.
And we're like, what the fuck? Like, why didn't he just get a Necro Valley and like not have to discard his card? Like he's discarding his monsters too for no reason. And so that like stuff like that, like, but he went 10-0. So what can you say? Like he fucking beasted on everybody that he played the game. He didn't lose to anyone until McCabe. He went 13-0 because he only lost in top 4. So maybe that's 14-0. I forget whatever the number is, but he went 10-0 in Swiss, and then he won top 32, top 16, top 8, and then he lost top 4. So 13-0. He goes 13-0 before he finally loses to the deck's creator, had to take him out.
That's crazy, and sometimes that just happens.
Yeah, the deck is that powerful.
Yeah, even the event that I won, I played Joel White in the finals, and I remember I was going through like I played Marjenko, I played Aaron Furman, I played oh my god, I'm blanking. I played a lot of good players in Top Cut, and then I played Joel, who had only played for like 6 months competitively, like locally, and he only lives like an hour from me, surprisingly, and he was just playing Metaphos, so like I think it might have just been like the best deck because he made a lot of mistakes when I played him, and like I was able to capitalize, but it just made me wonder, how he got to that point. Now Joel, when I test with him and stuff, he's a lot better of a player than he used to be, but he got to the finals of an event. I
played him for that event too, by the way. He was my last Swiss round. I played him. Yeah,
and he made a lot of mistakes. Like he even forgot an Ariande search against me, and on the like, maybe it was the pressure.
Definitely,
but at the same,
that's blatant.
Yeah, no. Well, so what happened was he popped it. He went to set combination. He's like, I was like, is that what you want? Like, you can switch it. I'm not going to shark you. And then he goes back in his deck, looks at it, looks at counter, puts down counter. I was like, okay. He's like, picks it up again, puts down fusion. Okay, so he switches through all three of them. He's like, is that it? He's like, yeah. And then he just continues playing. Completely forgot he popped Ariande. But yeah, so but I think that
pressure.
the Metapho deck was just so good because it could buy time. If you weren't playing Blue Eyes and they weren't putting the big Synchro Monster out, you just pen 5 every turn. Your opponent couldn't kill you, and then you do it again next turn. You do it again next turn. And like all that deck did was buy time with like counter, until you could get to like Kirin or like Gofu play or something like that. You were just buying time and just loading up your board. Yeah.
So you felt very comfortable playing that deck.
Oh yeah, I mean, I feel like the longer games go on, typically the more I'm able to capitalize on different mistakes others make and stuff.
What was your record in Swiss?
X1 or I was X2 actually, but my last round of Swish, I versed Mark Maya. I got pulled behind the curtain because one of my 3 painful decision. It's the one where you send a
normal monster.
Yeah. One of my 3 sleeves, I guess, had like dots that get on the back of your card sleeves after playing them for a while. They're white player's choice, and those are the most
of them.
Yeah, and I was like, I don't know what to tell you. I swear. Yeah, I was like, if I was gonna mark a card, it would not be that. Like, I promise you that was not intentional, and they believed me, but they still said they had to give me a game loss, and I had to switch my sleeves. So. And I had already lost game 1, won game 2, and it was game 3, and so I lost that match. So I was X2 at the end of day 1.
Yeah, sleeves just naturally get dirty. Like this probably won't get picked up on a camera at all, but this sleeve is so dirty in person. Like this is my Edison deck, and the sleeves are just because I've been using these sleeves since I first started the format 2 months ago, and they're just really dirty. I haven't marked any of these cards. I don't care. Every time I switch my deck, I just switch the cards out the sleeves and then put in new ones. But I know exactly what you mean. And over the course of an 11-round tournament, that's just what's going to happen. I've been pulled behind the curtain before too. I think only twice. Considering how long I play Yu-Gi-Oh, that's not bad. One of them had nothing to do
behind the curtain sounds like a trap card, right?
It's bad. It's really bad. Usually people
it's scary. It's so scary, especially when you know you're innocent and you're just like, because you just need them to believe you.
Yes.
And that's all you can hope for because
at the end of the day,
you hear
say anything.
Yeah, you hear the horror stories of innocent people. I mean, so long as you believe they're innocent. You hear the horror stories though, where they get like banned and they literally didn't do anything.
Yeah, just let them tell it. Yeah, I've been pulled behind the curtain twice. One of them, my opponent bribed me at the event where I played Dragoonity. It was actually last round. My opponent was an idiot. There's a judge standing behind him, and we're playing. I'm playing Dragoonity. He's playing Gravekeepers of all things, and this is right after I won the YCS.
Right.
And so there was one YCS in between. It was the 6 Sam one in Texas, but then that event just kind of whatever. That event was just so ignorant. So right after
that was 3 Gateway, right?
Yeah, that was 3 Gateway. So that event was horrible, from my perspective anyway. But the next event is the Charlotte, I believe it's Charlotte, 2011. And so I'm playing Dragoonity, he's playing Gravekeepers. And we're in game 3, I want to say. And out of nowhere, he's like, yo, would you take $5 for it? And I was like,
what?
And I literally looked at him and I said, excuse me? And he's like, would you do 5 for it? I was like, 5 what? He's like, $5. I was like, $5 for what? He's like, $5 for the win. And the judge literally is like, who's literally looking at me and listening to the conversation, like puts his head, but like kind of down towards the guy and goes, hold that thought. And he walks away. And I was like, oh God. And then they pull him behind the curtain. Then they pull me behind the curtain. I explain exactly what happened. I guess that my story lined up with the judges exactly because when it was all said and done, he got disqualified, probably banned. And then they said to me, like, your story and the judge's story was exactly the same word for word, almost scarily. And I was like, yeah, I mean, he offered me $5 for the win, and he was dead fucking serious too.
Yeah. Sometimes blatant cheating or blatant stuff like that happens. Yeah. I have a story after you tell your other one. So
yeah, the other time was really scary. So I went undefeated at Nationals in 2013 with windups. I went 9-0 day 1. And so did my friend from local, Mark Velez. We call him Little Mark. He also went 9-0 with windup. So both of us from the same local, play all the time, play every single weekend, literally. Both of us go 9-0. And, we're just hand looping people. That was the best call for the deck, for the event. And it ended up winning the event too. Like hand loop wind. Actually, an extreme version of our deck won the event because it was like all in loop your hand deck. Like it played a bunch of level 3 monsters that junk forward and stuff like that. Gillosaurus probably. Just to make sure it looped you turn 1. Ours was like, we will most likely loop you turn 1 if we go first, but if we don't do a turn 1, we just do it in the middle of the game. But anyway, so we go undefeated. And I remember round 7 or so, I'm 7-0, maybe 6-0 or something like that. I get pulled behind the curtain by a judge, and he goes, so I'm looking at your sleeves. This is a deck check. So he's like, I'm looking at your sleeves, and what can you tell me about these 3? So my heart is pounding because he has my deck and he pulls out 3 cards. He doesn't show them to me yet. He's like, what can you tell me about these 3? So I'm expecting, because my deck at the time, it plays Monster Born, it plays Pot of Avarice, because these cards make it where you loop all 5. So normally the wind up loop, I think it takes all of their cards except 1.
Right.
And if you play Monster Born or Pot of Avarice, if you draw those, you can actually take all 5 of your opponent's cards. So I have like Monster Born, which is at 1, Pot of Avarice, I'm pretty sure was at 1 at the time as well. And let's say like Heavy Storm or something. In my head, I'm thinking he's about to show me these 3 cards, because these are the most powerful cards in my deck. And everyone who plays wind-ups knows that these are the 3 most powerful cards. Anyway, he flips over 3 cards and he shows me 3 wind-up rabbits. And so I kind of laugh a little bit.
Like I don't want to open that card.
Like, disrespectfully, I fucking chuckle. Like, I literally chuckle at this guy. I'm like, what do you want me to tell you about those cards? And he goes, well, they seem they seem marked. And I was like, what do you mean? Like, you can cut to them or something? Like, you can get to them in my deck? Like, I'm not understanding what you mean. And he like shuffles my deck and he like tries to cut to 1. He's having a hard time. And I'm looking at him and I'm still kind of laughing in my head now. I'm not even afraid anymore because I think this is ridiculous now. Like now, even though he could technically just be like, I think these are marked, you're getting banned, you're getting disqualified. I am fully in. Right. I am fully thinking that this is not serious anymore because of what card it is. Like, I'm ready to plead my case. So as he's trying his hardest to cut to the fucking wind-up rabbits, I tell him, I'm say, hey, not to be that guy, but like if I were cheating, those would not be the cards that I would be cheating with. Like that card, it's okay. Like you need to play it because it's like there's not many good windups. But I was like, that's not like the best card in the deck by any means. Like I could see if he pulled out, Shark, right? Like wind up Shark is insane.
Yeah, or Tour Guide or
Wind Up Factory maybe. Tour Guide of the Underworld. Like there's so many cards. He pulled out Wind Up Rabbit. And I guess because that's the only secret rare card in the wind up deck, like I think the entire wind up deck is not secret rare except Wind Up Rabbit. So I think even my tour guys might have been like super or something at the time. Like they might have been a rarity lower than secret. So I'm thinking to myself, like, okay, this can't be real. And he just kind of just like lets it go. He's like, just go play around. Like he angrily gives me my deck back and tells me just go play my round. And he tells me he's watching me. I was like,
okay.
So at this point, I'm thinking to myself, this fucking judge is somebody who just doesn't like me as a person, which is fair. Like a lot of people don't, and I'm okay with that. But I'm just hoping that his bias towards me or his hate for me doesn't end up with me being banned from Yu-Gi-Oh! For something I just did not do. And nothing ever came of it. That was in 2013. And I literally have never had an infraction that was like suspicious or anything in my entire Yu-Gi-Oh! Career. I think the worst thing that has ever happened to me was when I topped the event you won. And I got a game loss for forgetting to write Big Eye, which is not cheating in any kind of way, because why the fuck would I not write a card that I play on my deck list? And it doesn't help me. It doesn't give me any kind of advantage whatsoever to not write a card and write 14 cards on my extra deck. I put myself at a disadvantage, if anything. So
yeah, they're hindering you.
Yeah, so I've never ever in my life had like an infraction where my integrity was questioned or anything crazy. Thankfully. So those are like my two. What's your story?
Oh yeah, so the other story I was gonna say, so that was the only time I've ever been pulled behind the curtain, but it was funny that you brought up that story where that guy asked you like that straight up in front of a judge, because it's crazy what people try to pull off in front of a judge. There was one round where I was in a 3v3. It was me, Justin, and Bernardo. We were against Jarrett Zimmerman's team. It was him and these two brothers. I don't know who they are exactly.
Okay. What, are Asian?
Yeah, they're Asian.
I know exactly who they are.
Yeah, so one of them's playing Bernardo, and there's a judge right in front of us. We're all shuffling. We offer our decks. Everyone cuts, and then judge goes, you two are getting a random deck check to Bernardo and one of the Asian brothers.
Okay.
And that brother picks up his deck the moment the judge says it, decides, puts in other cards, and then puts his deck in his deck box. And Bernardo turns to the judge. He's like, did you see that? And the judge is like, oh, yeah, I saw it. And then they had to play with only 2 people after that. But yeah, I was just dumbfounded. Like, dude, just say you forgot the side, and like you probably get a match loss, but you probably don't like get DQ'd from the event, right?
Yeah.
But this guy just straight decided from a judge, like he knew it was there beforehand. Man. So it was just straight up cheating.
Yeah, that's one of the scariest things that can happen. Once I realized, because I'm also a judge, once I realized how the deck check thing works, so the judge is supposed to wait until you present your deck to your opponent. in which case the duel has officially commenced, and you've now given your opponent your deck with the intent that that's the deck you're going to be playing with now. Once they grab the deck from you, that's the deck. So I remember I would get deck checked, and sometimes my judge would be a little too quick, and so they would grab my deck from me before I handed it to my opponent, which is fine. Like, there's nothing wrong. But I remember one time I forgot to decide, and he's like, he goes to grab my deck box, and I was like, hold on, I need to decide before you take it. And he's like, the match already started. I said, no, it hasn't. I actually haven't presented my deck yet, and I know the rules. So you can't just like, I have not given this deck to my opponent. I've not presented this as my deck. I pulled this deck out my deck box, and you said, all right, guys, everything back in the deck box. Give me your decks. And I was like, hold on, let me decide. Because sometimes after a game, if I go into time, like, you don't get a chance to decide sometimes for whatever, sometimes you just don't get a chance. Like, sometimes you might be the last round, and they're like, all right, after you're done, take the match slip, next round goes up, and you're like, fuck.
Yeah, and I face that a lot too, because like you said on one of your other podcasts, I also play really slow because the way I play is I sit there for like almost a minute straight analyzing everything I'm gonna do and like trying to calculate all the risk for each line of play I'm wanting to make, and then I start playing at a regular speed. But obviously, if I get hand trapped, it like resets. All right, pause for a second. Yeah, now I've got to reanalyze.
That way. Like, I don't play all of my moves. Some of my decisions you'll watch are rapid as hell. But some of them are like, well, I need to really think about this. And you have time. Like, it's not like the time is, you get 40 minutes for a reason. You're allowed around 3 minutes a turn or whatever it is. As long as you're playing at a reasonable pace, like, you're allowed to think. A lot of people think that like, oh, you need to be making all your decisions super quick. Why don't you know every scenario as soon as it comes up? Like, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, I hear you have 10 seconds for every single play you make.
It's like, no. I'll usually look at my opening hand, especially in Edison format. I usually look at my opening hand for probably, like you said, a minute. Like, I stare at my opening hand, unless it's so obvious, unless I have one play. Like, if I have one play, like, oh, set Ryko. Set call, whatever, Mirror Force, Torrential, whatever. Like, those plays, like, okay, this is super simple. I don't really have much going on. If I have Spy and Ryko and Sangan, that's a decision.
Oh, yeah, no, for sure.
Like, that's a decision.
Yeah, and that's why I was saying, like, so I go into time pretty frequently and like have where I have to decide as I'm sitting down. So I can't imagine if that happened to me and a judge is like, I need your deck. And it's like, because I didn't know you had to present your deck first, honestly. So you saying that's good, because if that ever does come up for me now, I have I'm not ignorant to that, so I won't get in trouble for it.
The judge is supposed to know that. Like, they aren't supposed to try to get your deck before you present it. But the second you give your deck to your opponent, you've presented your deck. Now that is whatever you gave is technically your legal deck. So if it's wrong, then you get a game loss, and it's not a match; it's just a game loss. But unless they realize something else is going on, but that's a whole different.
Yeah, and I've judged before, and I didn't know that, so I'm really glad that you brought that up.
One of the head judges for I want to say Yugioh in general, he's one of the biggest head judges. Paul Fahi, I think, is that how you say his last name? But he is my local judge, so he's the guy that he just goes to our locals on a regular Saturday, Sunday. At least back in the day, I don't think he doesn't done that in a while because of one, the pandemic, and two, he's just like much older now, and we kind of don't need him at locals. We have other regular judges now at locals, but when I was coming up, like when me and McCabe were going around topping a bunch of events, he was the head judge every single week at locals. And he happened to also be the head judge at multiple YCSs and nationals. And I always felt very comfortable because he teaches a lot just about how to judge. Because I was a judge under him. He taught me a lot about just how to do it properly. How to tell. I always get tricked up, or not tricked up, but kind of like, I don't know. I get weird when the situation is a he say, she say scenario where
I hate those.
Two Yu-Gi-Oh players are just arguing about something. When time was called, for example, they won't agree on whose turn it was. Now they won't agree on what phase it was. He said battle phase. He didn't say battle phase. He's still in main phase 1. He said it when the buzzer. As soon as he heard the buzzer, he said attack. Stuff. It's just like, how do you even? This is so hard to prove. But Paul has taught me stuff to kind of you have to make a decision at the end of the day. He's like, so, you have to figure out, you have to ask these guys over and over, let them explain a story, then you come up with whoever you feel like is right and who you think is lying. And
if you can't figure it out, just flip a coin. I'll be like, all right, guys, listen. Either agree on a story, or I'm flipping a coin to decide the winner.
And then the scariest head judge ever.
A lot of times they err on the side of caution too, right? So they'll say, all right, so when you attempted to enter the phase, if they are saying they had an opportunity to activate something, like what card, I want to see what cards you have, because a lot of times an Altergeist player will have a set protocol but no Altergeist monsters and no Faker in hand, and yes, theoretically they could activate it before they enter battle, but it's not accomplishing anything. They wouldn't normally otherwise, so the judge would side with the person entering battle phase.
Exactly.
But if the person has a reasonable card before battle phase, let's say Max C still card, I wanted to activate this because, if we're not playing for time, he's probably special summoning and I'm down 3 cards, right?
Yeah.
Well, now they have a legitimate argument they were thinking before they went into the battle phase.
Yep. No, I totally get that. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, judging is interesting. But feeling comfortable at events, never having any crazy infractions or anything. I play Yu-Gi-Oh for over 10 years, I feel like, and it does feel nice to just get out the game like cleanly and not have to worry about your reputation being tarnished. You see so many people who go out bad, and it's like, damn.
It's crazy. A lot of these guys I used to look up to have bans on their name. I remember I saw an event, it was an old event, and someone at my locals, 19 people in this top 32 have been banned at some point. I was like, that is crazy. That's absurd because, at that point in time, yeah, so many of them were so well regarded, you know what I mean? So,
yep.
And it's crazy that over time, I remember like I said, I copied Simon He's deck and I was such a big fan.
Mm-hmm.
And after the Mark Dragon, E-Dragon thing that happened to him, it was hard for me to fathom. I was like, there's no way. Yeah. So,
well,
crazy stuff.
Yeah, that's crazy. I have a question for you though.
Sure.
This is kind of random, but I just want to know. So did you sell your prize card, your ultra rare prize card when you won?
Sadly, oh my god!
So I always like to make everyone feel bad about this, but this is the feel bad moment. So how much
I felt so good when it happened.
18?
I got 1800, and yep, and I remember I was thinking about holding it. I was like, maybe I should try to get $2,000. And everyone's like, no, you won't get more than 1,500 for it from anyone else, dude. Just sell it.
I told you 18 is so fucking good.
I know, and honestly, like you said, though, no one could predict that selling quite literally any Yu-Gi-Oh card was just a mistake.
Ever sold in your entire life before the year 2020 was a mistake. Every single card you've ever sold.
Yeah, I remember selling a playset of Super Metas for $200 in 2014. They were 70 a piece, and I sold a playset of them for $200.
And how much?
And they're $1,000 each or something.
Jesus.
Yeah. So I don't like to think about that stuff.
Yeah, I didn't like to think about it either because I've gotten destroyed as well on my collection as far as selling things before.
Right.
I mean, I still have a lot of cards left, but I sold a lot of my collection as I quit, and then my collection started to slowly go.
Right. Yeah, but being an 18-year-old kid and still just in college, yeah, $1,800 was a lot of money. So
do you know what your prize card is worth now?
Oh, I honestly don't want to look at it. I looked it up, the ultra rare one, a year and a half ago or something, and it was $6,000. So I imagine it's much more than that now.
It's probably more than double that. I imagine it's in the 20 to 30 grand now.
Oh man,
ultra rare prize cards are outrageously expensive.
That's casually a down payment on a house or an entire car.
Casually an entire car. Casually a Tesla.
Now you know why he offered you $5 for the win, man. He just take this $5, yo. Take this $5.
But realistically,
don't you want $5?
I don't have the integrity to do that. But even if someone did want to sell you a win, who would do it for $5?
Yo, that's the thing. That's what made it.
That's what's so funny.
When I told this story I'm just gonna say it. Frank the Brito was one of the people who questioned me. We didn't know each other at the time. I know Frank well now.
Right.
At the time, I'm a new YCS champion. I don't really know Julia, Frank, and those guys at this current time. I know of them, but I don't know them.
Right.
And so he's questioning me. Arms folded. He's taller than me and everything like that. I'm really kind of intimidated because I'm scared that I'm in trouble for doing something. But I'm like, this guy.
Me?
I'm like this. Well, they just wanted to know what happened.
Yeah,
If we both were working. If they wanted to know if we were working out a deal. But when I told him, I say this guy literally offered me $5, and I was like, I'm gonna be honest with you. I felt slighted. I straight up felt fucking slighted. I felt slighted.
Are you kidding me, dude?
$5? Because when he said 5, I said 5 what?
5 what?
I thought he was gonna say 500. I'm like, still no, because we're literally on the bubble. We're both X and 1 or 2. So whoever wins this has a chance to top. I think I was X and 2. I feel like we were both X and 2. That sounds right for my Dragunity deck. I don't remember. But whatever we had a chance to top. I think whoever won guaranteed was in top 32. And so I'm like, at this time, this would have been my second top. I actually wanted this top really badly because I had that whole stigma thing about being a one-hit wonder. I didn't want to top. I didn't want to just win with Gravekeepers and never top again, as some people had. I wanted to be, a person. I wanted to get a name for myself. So that top meant more to me than $500. I'm gonna be honest. That top might have been more to me. Definitely more than 5, more than 50, more than 500. And at the time, as crazy as it sounds, it might have been worth more than $5,000 for me, just because of how bad I love Yu-Gi-Oh! And I wanted to win. Like, money wasn't really the goal. And honestly, if you play Yu-Gi-Oh!, money probably should not be the goal.
It isn't the goal. Yeah, for sure.
It just can't be the goal for Yu-Gi-Oh! Like, play anything else.
And even if it is, what was the... Because I know a lot of tournaments, I don't know. A lot of tournaments, if you topped, you got a mat or whatever. Like,
you got a mat box, maybe a game system.
My thing is, if topping that tournament would have got you more than $5, like
yes, that was the other thing that was weird to me. Is like, well, if I just get top 32, the mat itself is 100 minimum.
Yeah, like the mat is like I'm going to get a mat if I top like $5.
Yeah, like what are we doing? It was a weird situation, and I don't know, but yeah, that guy, I don't think he ever played Yu-Gi-Oh again. I don't think he really took Yu-Gi-Oh that serious to begin with. If I'm being completely honest with you. I know he was friends with Jeff Jones, and Jeff was like, he's an idiot. Like, I walked up to Jeff and told him the story. He's like, he's stupid. And I was like, he's like, yeah, he's an idiot. He literally called him an idiot. So I'm not surprised. But yeah, so you sold your prize, I sold mine for nothing comparatively. And
what'd you sell yours for? If you don't mind me asking.
Like $1,000. Like three ultra rare Dark Lords for $1,000. No big deal. They're probably worth like 15, 20K now.
Yeah, and that's what people were selling. The prize card I sold for 18. That's what they were selling later on in that format. Because I was the first one in the U.S. to have an ultra of that prize card. So there was only 2 in circulation, mine and one other one. That's why I could sell it for so much more.
Yeah, you got top dollar.
Yeah.
Are you a collector in general?
So recently, in like the past 2 or 3 years, my wife and I have got this binder that we keep in a safe that we keep adding to. As just something that we figure 5-10 years from now, when we have kids and whatnot, that we could sell out and, have a comfortable position, or, if we're good on money even later, maybe retirement or something. So
it could literally be that though.
Yeah, no, for sure. Collecting Yu-Gi-Oh is crazy.
Yeah, and these Charizards, I just saw a Charizard sold for 420K. I think it set a new record this week. So that's insane. $420,000 for a Charizard. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, I think that 10,000 Dragon in Yu-Gi-Oh is going to be worth a ton of money someday.
10,000 Dragon?
Yeah, do you know what that is? It came out in like a side set, I think, maybe a year and a half ago, and it says 10,000 on the bottom of the card. It's like a completely different type of rarity. Yeah, and you pull them in like 1 in every 12 point some odd cases or something like that. Like they were really rare. Now? I think it's I want to say it's like $1,500-$1,600 right now.
Okay.
Dollars, but yeah, I honestly think in like 10-20 years it's gonna actually be like a $10,000 dragon.
I think that's so cool. I want that for that card just because 10,000 dragon worth 10K.
Yeah.
That meme needs to come to fruition.
Oh, this is the guy I just looked it up. He's the cover monster for Master Duel.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh, really?
Okay. Yeah, yep.
Yeah. Okay. I know what you're talking about now. I had to come back to me. Like, what do you... The people were telling me, Fraser, you need to get this Dark Magician, the collector's rare one that just came out recently.
Yep.
And I was like, sure, I'll get one. Why not?
Yeah, of course. You need that. That's your signature.
I do need it.
This card is a rant. Must be special summoned by attributing monsters whose combined attack and defense is 10,000 or more. If summoned this way, this card's attack and defense becomes 10,000.
It's like, it becomes 10,000.
It's not good, but
that's a rant. The art is fucking dope.
There's probably a world it works, and then you summon Cannon Soldier and win the game, but
Cannon Soldier, that card, taking it back. Well, all right, we can start to wrap this up. I don't know if there's anything else you guys wanted to discuss while we're on.
I did want to ask you one question because I just was curious where your mind's at. So has there ever been a point for you, and if so, when was it that you felt like, I made it in Yu-Gi-Oh? Like, obviously I know for you, like, the win wasn't enough, and you wanted to prove to people, but like, what point were you like, I'm going to be regarded like top 5, top 10 all time for a long time?
For me, a couple things. I don't know if it was one particular moment, but I know the big thing that really made me start to sleep differently at night, with like the chip was no longer on my shoulder, was when I was fully sponsored by ARG. There was something that felt so special about walking into an event wearing like an ARG hoodie and then seeing Patrick Hoban and Jeff Jones and Billy Brake and Alistair and Joe Orlando all wearing the exact same thing, and only us wearing the exact same thing with our names on it, and like people walking up to us and asking for signatures. I remember at Long Beach 2012, me and Alistair, was it me and Alistair? I think it was me, Alistair, and Billy. We walked around the event because that event didn't start for like 4 hours. It took so long for it to begin because it was 4,000 people. They didn't expect it. That event, we walked around for 4 hours just doing nothing. And we had to sign so many cards. Mind you, this is only 2 years after. 2012 is only 2 years after I won in 2010. So like 2 years later, I have a ton of tops now. And I like didn't know Billy at all before I won. I literally have never talked to him before, never even seen him before. And then all of a sudden, like now I'm on the same team as him. And like Alistair, same thing. Like we were friends, but like not really like as close as we got from, you know, being on the same team and stuff. And there was a guy who walked up to us. I'll never forget. He walked up to us with 3 Rescue Rabbits. Mind you, at the time, Rescue Rabbit was a $70 card and it was secret rare only. And he walked up to us and he's like, "Hey, can you guys each sign one of my Rescue Rabbits for my deck today?" And all 3 of us looked at each other and was like, "No, you can't be serious, right? Like that card is like almost $100. Like we usually, you know, we sign stuff, but usually it's like, oh, sign my mat, sign my binder, sign a card in the sleeve." But he took the shits out the sleeve, put them in front of us and was like, "Sign these Rescue Rabbits. You each sign one." And so we did. And we walked away like, yo, that's kind of crazy. And that wasn't the only time where I was asked to sign something expensive. I was asked to sign 3 secret rare pot of dualities when they were $150 each.
Oh, man.
Like when I won the YCS, somebody asked me to sign 3 secret rare first edition pot of dualities. And that card was fully over $100. And stuff like that. Like just like writing articles, people telling me how much they love like the Origin series. You know, just people walking up to me telling me they're my favorite player, like meeting you, like you're one of the people who was like, yo, like I always was inspired by you and stuff like that. That's what really did it for me when I realized like, holy shit, like this is bigger than just like me. Like I thought like I was doing this for my own, like I just wanted to top a bunch of times and everything. But then you realize like people are actually looking up to you.
Yeah, and fanboys aren't just scrubs either.
Right. Exactly. Fanboys grow up to fucking be the next top players.
Yeah, I know. And like it's funny how that is because
it's Deku and Might All Might.
Yeah, I remember the first time I signed a card, I was like, are you talking to me? Like you want me to sign something? Like I just have a YCS one, dude. That's it. But
yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, my moment was so after I won the YCS, a few months later, I had won that ARG, and then after that I topped 16 nats and lost to Roland. And I remember being like really sad because I really thought I was going to Worlds. I felt unstoppable for like that year.
What was the deck?
So I was playing Pure Zoo and so was Roland, and it literally came down to, so the funny thing is I flying seed Roland and he acted so upset. Like I was like, oh, I'm gonna win, like this is over. And he's like, "I'm just messing with you, man," and then plays a barrage and pops the flying C. Yeah, and he BM'd me so bad.
Oh my god!
But he was cool about it though and stuff. And like, and because I thought I was gonna 2-0 him, and then game 3 he won also, but he just had Imperial Order and I had a handful of spells. But after that event, Dale Bolito actually messaged me and was asking me questions about the Zoo deck and stuff, and you know, we talked a bit, and he told me that he thinks me and Justin Singh were going to be the next Billy and Jeff of our generation when everything's said and done, is what he told me. And like that was like the highest praise, especially because it came from someone who wasn't my friend. Because like you said, you would say nice stuff like that, right? But like you're my friend.
You were insane. I would be all over you. I mean, literally, I used to rub your abs for good luck every event.
Rub your abs for good luck.
That's true. And but yeah, so like I like hearing it from you, like because you were my friend, I didn't know if it was genuine or as genuine. But then when I heard it from someone that, you know, is considered an all-time great that I literally never spoke to, and he said that to me, like that was when I was like, all right, well, like the recognition's there. Like I've heard it from a lot of people, but it felt real.
Yeah, it feels good to be recognized. That's a big part of it. And the crazy thing is, Jim, my first sponsor, he believed in me when I really didn't believe in myself. Like I said, I declined him when he first offered me a sponsorship because I thought I wasn't good enough. I didn't want to be an embarrassment to ARG. So I said, no, I'm not going to do that because I've never topped anything else. And then I got a couple more tops, and then I came back to him, and he sponsored me. But like that imposter syndrome where you think like, oh, I'm not really that good. I just got lucky or whatever, and then come to find out like, no, you actually are as good as you are.
Right.
Good. Like you actually are good, and then you become great, and it's like, yeah, this is who I am, and you just embrace it. It's like no one can take that from me. Like I know, like yes, I've only won one YCS. Like I've never won another YCS. I've been close a couple times. But even still, like I am still considered one of the best players to ever play, and no one can ever take that from me. I ended on a high note in Yu-Gi-Oh, and that to me feels great. Like people still to this day, I haven't played in over 5 years, and they still just like they know who I am. They know that I'm well regarded. It's funny even at my locals. Like some people are just like, oh god, like Fraser's playing again. I'm like, no, I'm not playing your game. I'm playing Edison. Like, don't.
Oh yeah, and you'll always instill fear when you sit across from someone who knows
afraid.
the name Fraser Smith.
Yeah, and that stuff is kind of cool to me. Like, I don't take it too seriously now. I'm way over myself in reality. Like I play against my opponents, and I don't just theoretically expect to beat them just because. I kind of know I still have to work for it. And I shouldn't sleep on anybody. And the second you do that is when you start to lose. So I never lose sight of my competitiveness, and just like I respect all my opponents. Even if my opponent walks to the table and they say, "Oh fuck," and they still do stuff like that. But,
oh yeah, no, for sure. And Kenny, just so you know, the reason I regarded Fraser so highly and whatnot as well is at that event I won in 2016. After I won round 2. He was watching my match because he finished his really fast. He said to me, dude, you're winning this whole event. And, obviously no one says that early in a tournament.
Yes.
And then we get to Top Cut. He's in Top Cut with me. He's like, this sucks. I was like, why? He's like, because I can't win. You're going to win this event. Okay, we were both in Top Cut. And then I went on to win the event. He's like, I told you.
Yeah, I knew that week. I felt it. I fucking felt it. Also, I knew that you were going to be a good player when we first met. I don't know. There's like I have this weird like foresight thing. All my friends know it. It's like a really weird foresight ability. But for some reason, when I first met you and just like as we progressed throughout our friendship, I just knew that you were going to be like not only just a YCS champion, but just a great player. Like you were just going to be great. It's just weird. It's like a weird feeling. Like you got to imagine a ton of people walk up to me and talk to me about, you inspire me and can, talk about all of their, their Yu-Gi-Oh life and stuff. That happens a lot. Like not even to be like pompous about it or anything, but that just happens so often. But for whatever reason, me and you became actual friends. And it's because I was like, yo, this guy is good. Like I want to be around this kid. Like I know he knows what he's talking about. He knows what he's doing. He's also very competitive. He's very passionate about this. And next thing you know, you were fucking over here winning. Like
yeah, and it wasn't right. It wasn't fake at all either, because like a lot of people became my friends after I started winning, you know what I mean? But you were my friend way before that.
I'm so glad. In fact, it was so here's how bad it was. And we can end off with this. Here's how bad it was. There were times when I would be hanging out with you, Faizal, your whole group, right? Emron, everybody. And people in my groups would be like, who the hell are those people? And why are you constantly going out to eat with them? Like you're going over to their hotel, like you're walking around. Like I would be at the event, and I wouldn't be hanging out with my friends that I already had. I would be hanging out with like you guys, like literally just like people would be confused. Like, what the hell? Like, who are those people? Like, who are those? Like,
like who are these bums?
Yeah. Like, who are those scrubs you're hanging with? Who are the random scrubs? Like, and I'm just like, they're my friends. Leave them alone. I don't need to hang around pros all day. Just let me hang around my fucking friends. And then my scrub friends, and all of you guys became YCS champions, which is just insane to me. I still can't get over that. You, Faizal, and Emron all became YCS champions. That is nuts.
Maybe they stole your juice. Maybe you gave all of them your juice.
Well, if that's the way it ends for me, then I'm happy, because that means I had a lot of fucking juice to get 3 people.
To keep doing well too.
Like 3 people.
Give them all the juice. There's girls on the internet now selling their bath water. Maybe that's what we got to do. We got
There's so many things I want to talk about still, but I want to end this one here. We could just have you back again. It's not like you're going anywhere, God willing. So let's have you back, because I do want to talk about anime. I don't know if you play anything else.
It sounds like you.
He loves One Piece.
A bunch of anime like us. Yeah. And One Piece is my absolute shit. So
same. I love One Piece so much, and I'm a huge anime nerd. Just I know I brought up the Netro reference, but I have a Word document of all the anime I've ever watched, and it's like 4 pages long.
Bro, I need to do that. Because I started to attack myself like this happened in the last 2 years, thinking that I wasn't a true anime fan because I was like, do I just watch only mainstream anime? And then I started to realize that's just not true. I've watched a lot of anime that
mainstreamer.
Yeah, like I'm not like I don't just watch Naruto, DBZ, Bleach, One Piece, Attack on Titan.
Right.
Like I have a lot of offbeat anime that I actually have watched and that I kind of forgot about, and like people also wouldn't know by looking at me or talking to me, because when you talk about anime, you typically do bring up the big ones,
Right.
just so that we all can kind of have something that we agree upon and have in common.
I was keeping track of all my shit on my anime list for a while, but I just like stopped doing it. And it's so out.
I'm gonna go through. Yeah, I'm gonna go through and just do my anime list. I think I'm gonna go through the whole fucking thing and just check off everything I've actually seen, because I've seen a lot of random shit. And yeah, I love anime, and I definitely want to have you back to talk. We could talk more about Yu-Gi-Oh. We could talk more about Edison format. I think you also mentioned you made the Dragoonity deck from 2011. I know you said that people play 2014 Nationals, I think.
Yeah, that's I'd say next to Edison, that's probably the next biggest format getting steam right now.
Yes.
But I honestly, I didn't look at it from your light at first, where you really wanted to push Edison because, you want the community surrounded around something. That way, eventually, when we all get tired of Edison, or, it gets solved, and then we can start to move to another format like 2014.
Yeah, because my thing is with Edison, right? So Edison is where I have chosen to stick my flag in and say, this is where I'm playing at. Like, I'm not going anywhere else. I know that we could play technically any old format, but the thing is, with Yu-Gi-Oh players, you have to get them all on board to, like, you have to focus the group. You can't have it fragmented. And I'm afraid that if everybody's like, oh, let's play this format, let's play this format, let's play this format, it's just going to get fragmented, and Konami's never going to back one individual format. If they realize that Edison format is actually huge, then maybe it'll get some real backing by the actual creator of the game. And that would be fantastic if that happens. And then we can focus on other formats. But I think it's important to kind of rally behind one, maybe two. Like, GOATs will always be there. Like, right?
Yeah.
GOATs will always be there. The format is literally goated. So, that you can't stop that one. But I think Edison for me, Edison came out of nowhere, but I'm happy because it's a fair format. It's very fair. And you get a lot of turns. There's a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh to be played. And apparently a lot of people fucking like it. A lot of people love the nostalgia of playing all these different decks. You could technically play Glad Beast, Lightsworn, Black Wings, all these things that people haven't played in a decade, you can play. So I really like it. And I'm glad that so many people are willing to invest in it in person. They're not just playing it on Dueling Books. Like, people are buying the price of Edison cards has gone up so much in the last 3 months because of all the posting about it, and we talk about it on the podcast a lot, and then those tournaments that are being hosted by Keegan and E3 Yu-Gi-Oh and all that. Ed and Edison, there's Discords that are just Edison format, and I there's a lot. I think the last thing I want to say, and this is one of the reasons why I really back Edison format, when I saw the website edisonformat.com, that sold it for me, because that website makes this all possible. I don't think any of this is possible without that website. That website is insane.
Oh yeah, it gives everyone a super strong basis to even get into the game. It makes the barrier to entry really low.
It makes it so low. You can literally go on there, click on a deck. It'll give you a link to download it right in the Dueling Book. You don't have to type anything. You can just start playing. And they have a ton of decks. So it's like, for me, that was amazing. But then also, one of the biggest hurdles that you're going to have with old formats is always going to be old rulings. And the website has all of the rulings from that format. And I cannot tell you how often I'm playing with my friends on DB, and then we come across a scenario that we have no idea how to work through it, and then we go on the website and it just tells us exactly how it works. Like, that's amazing.
Yeah, I didn't even know they had that, because I come across weird rulings all the time, and I just scavenge Google to try to find it.
Go on that website and go to rulings, and then you'll find they have it like A through C, then rulings D through, and it goes like that.
Gotcha. Yeah.
But they literally have all of the rulings for Edison format as they were for Edison format, and that's really. It's amazing. It's amazing to just have that resource, because ruling questions come up all the time. Like, I had one that came up that was Cold Wave. What Future Fusion is about to summon my monster on the next turn. So we didn't know, does Cold Wave cut off the Future Fusion? Does my monster still come out? Does it not come out? Like, how does that work?
Still comes out, right?
Yeah,
because you're not playing the card.
Yeah, it still comes out in that format.
And you can't oppression it either.
You can't oppression it. Yeah, when the monster, but you can only oppression it when I play Future Fusion.
Right. Yep.
So
yeah, I had that come up recently.
So yeah, stuff like that. It matters a lot. Also, there was one Armory Arm, I think it was, and if it killed a certain Diddy Warrior Lady into Armory Arm, I think it was, like, I attacked into an absolute zero. and he had Armory Arm equipped, and I wanted to banish both, and it was like, does Armory Arm burn me for 3,500? But like it doesn't. So, you know, knowing stuff like that is just super important. And that website has all these obscure rulings that come up kind of frequently the more I play Edison format. They just actually come up. So I just think that makes, like you said, the barrier to entry is so low. And if we all rally behind it, maybe we can get something real big started. But I think that these RBET tournaments are already a big step in the right direction.
Yeah, no, for sure. I agree. I'm still conflicted on what I'm even going to play in, so we'll see.
Yeah. Well, let me know. I'm interested to see. I also want to talk Edison format with you at some point. Like me and you can just have an offline conversation about it. Just what you think.
Yeah, I honestly love picking your brain because I get a lot from you typically. So
yeah, I agree. It's like we're like a mirror of each other. I just like bouncing ideas off of another good player because at the very least, like even if we're in the wrong direction, we can still figure out that okay, this is wrong and this is right.
Right, and we'd even do it in DC and stuff too. So
yeah,
I remember like when, But also, thank you guys for not only having me, but for having this podcast. I know selfishly, I listen to you guys every week, and it helps me get through my workday a lot of times.
Nice.
And even when it's over stuff that I don't even have much interest in, just hearing your guys' passion about it, and a lot of times, you know, it makes me want to get into it or learn more about it. So
like Monster Hunter, we talk about Monster Hunter all the time.
Yep. I love the podcast, and I was fanning to even be on here today. So
yeah, I'm so glad you came on, and I can't wait to have you back. You're one of my closest friends in the Yu-Gi-Oh community, one of the people I met from across the country who I legitimately enjoy hanging out with. Haven't hung out with you in so long. A lot has changed in your life, and a lot has changed in my life too. So I can't wait until the time we can actually hang out together again, maybe grab a drink or something.
Hell yeah.
I feel like the last time I saw you, you might not have been able to drink. So
I probably wasn't. So likewise.
The pandemic is like a 2-year time skip. That puts you at 22 years old. And a year before that puts you at 21 years old. So anytime before that, and I had already quit Yu-Gi-Oh! When you turned 21. So there was probably never a time where we were in the same place where we could have got a drink when you were 21.
I wasn't playing in 2019 either. So
So there's never been an opportunity. So yeah, maybe one time we can grab food or drink or something, and we can go from there. But it's good talking with you, Marcus, as always. If you want to shout out any socials or anything you got going on, you could do that.
I would just like to shout out TGS. They're a store in Illinois, and it's all my best friends. They own it, and they also go there, and to this day, they still send me like T-shirts and stuff.
Nice.
And I just love those guys. And then if anyone isn't playing in the EB or REBT, there's a GOAT format in Cincinnati, Ohio at +1 Gaming, and they have insane prizes. So check that out.
Nice. All right.
Sick.
Well, thank you. And as I always say, guys, do the things that make you happy. This is the IMNerd Podcast, and we are out of here.
Peace.